Chapter 1578. Etienne's outburst made them dumbfounded, and they couldn't say a word. This wasn't just a slap in the face. It was simply a slap to the death, ruthlessly shattering their illusions. The real cultivation method is indeed to condense 2 planets before the 9th refinement Earth Lord to successfully break through to the 10th refinement Earth Lord. The difficulty is too high. It's not recommended to try. It doesn't mean that you can break through after condensing 2 planets. It just increases the chances a little. Etienne pointed at the great Devis and said, "I have already given the detailed experience to Master. Everything will be decided by him." The great Devis definitely wouldn't say it out loud. Originally, he wanted to refute a few words, but Etienne directly stood up and explained. Otherwise, they wouldn't be willing to believe it no matter what. At the same time, he wanted to increase the prestige of the great Devis, so that after this stop he could firmly take root in the heaven cultivation god realm. Previously, the great Devis only wanted to try in the vast divine sect. Now that there was such a big change, once he could control most of the power in the heaven cultivation god realm, he could try here. He just wanted to be a boost here, not expose himself to prove that they were idiots. This was only one of the points. The key was to make his master's position more stable. Especially the last words. It meant that the detailed cultivation method was in the hands of the great Devis. As to how to say it out, it was up to the great Devis. The eyes of the group focused on the great Devis, flickering incessantly. They didn't expect that the 10th refinement Earthlord powerhouse in the outside world was actually the disciple of the great Devis. It was really inconceivable. How can that be? Could it be that what those guys provided us was fake? These elders were all stunned. They had personally experienced it. How could it be fake? As long as one is strong enough, and some have the ability to imitate, it's not surprising to be able to imitate the aura of the 10th refinement Earth Lord. At this time, Yudong stepped out and shook his head, sighing. 10 refinements Earth Monarchs. A long time ago, there were indeed 10 refinements Earth Monarchs, but they all disappeared. We also have the ability to condense 2 planets, but we don't have the guts to break through to the 10th refinement. The cultivation method is too complicated. It's really hard to say. As ancient heavenly gods, they still knew quite a bit. However, in essence, they did not break through from the 10 refinements Earth Monarch. Thus, they really did not have the true cultivation method or the reliable experience. Otherwise, they would have provided it long ago instead of being in seclusion. So there's such a thing. Combined with Etienne's words, it seemed to be quite believable. Of course, the ability of the 10 refinements Earth Monarch was right in front of their eyes. They had no choice but to believe it. Could it be that what we saw was an illusion? These elders really wanted to die. The real 10 refinement Earth Lord was right in front of them. Without a doubt, the evil spirit race was just an illusion. That's right. What you've seen should be an illusion, including the power of the God Emperor. It's very likely that they found the power of the God Emperor from a long time ago and released a little bit, making you mistakenly think that it's true. Yudong snorted coldly. In our era, the God Emperor did not even appear, but now you're telling me that there are 2 God Emperors? Isn't this a joke? They haven't come out of seclusion yet. I think they don't exist at all. The strength of the God Emperor is so strong, what else can stop them? Yudong snorted disdainfully. He really did not believe these things. If there really was a God Emperor, wouldn't they turn the sky upside down? After hearing these words, the elders' faces alternated between green and white. Could it be that they were really fooled? Did they see it with their own eyes and feel the aura with their own eyes? Or were they deceived? This was really too terrifying. The evil spirit race's methods were really strong. Could it be that we were really deceived? The traitorous elders were already regretting to the point that their intestines turned green. Yes, you must have been deceived. The great Devis said in a deep voice. But they will definitely start a battle between the God Emperors. With their strength, they can still destroy us. The elders were still stubborn, and did not completely compromise. Even if that's the case, do we have to kneel to them just to survive? Xiaotian Region Lord sneered. Back then, during the battle between the God Emperors, there were also many forces that were not willing to kneel to live. Take a closer look. How many forces that were willing to kneel to live still exist now? The words of Region Lord Xiutian and the others directly made the elders swallow back their words. Actually, these words were not only said to these traitors, but also to the nearby elders and deacons. They hoped that such a situation would not happen again. Traitors would never have a good ending. Yi Tianyun had a deep understanding of this in this aspect. The evil spirit race's attitude towards these traitors was extremely bad. Especially after the end, it was simply a completely different attitude. They were even more disdainful of these traitors, who were even worse than beasts. Thus, they would rather die standing than live kneeling. In 10 days, execute them in front of all the disciples. Xiutian Region Lord waved his hand, indicating for them to detain these people and execute them after a period of time. Yes. The guards immediately took them away. These elders' faces were ashen. What would come would come. This was the logic of the winner being the king, and the loser being the bandit. It's all thanks to little friend's help that we were able to come out to rescue this time. Heavenly deity Yudong smiled at Yi Tianyun and said, I didn't expect you to be a 10 refinement Earth Lord. I really couldn't tell that such a genius is actually a human cultivator. It's really unbelievable. That's right. It seems like we should change the rules. Human cultivators will also be recruited. Not only them, but even the other elders had also changed their views towards the human race. Especially those elders who insisted on recruiting genius disciples. Now their views had also changed. It wasn't that recruiting geniuses was bad, but they were recruiting people with loyalty, not a bunch of ingrates. Now many geniuses had betrayed them. Just thinking about it made their hearts ache. At the same time, they felt that they were all old and haggard. After such a thing happened, they were much less persistent in some of their pursuits. Great Elder, this time, we are all convinced. All the elders bowed deeply to the great Devis. Even if they were at the same level, they had to bow to express their apologies. After this experience, they had learned a lot. The more they climbed up from the bottom, or the more talented they were, the more talented they were. The more talented they were. Even if they received resources as a reward, they would feel that it was only right. Where would they feel the slightest bit of gratitude? Chapter 1579. Yi Tianyun had indirectly saved the entire heaven cultivation sacred realm, and received a lot of gratitude. He was even directly invited to become an elder. However, he rejected all of these. He still didn't want to become an elder here. The great Devis was enough to manage it. There was no need for him to join. Moreover, he definitely wouldn't do anything if he joined. He wasn't in charge of the 3 realms sacred realm. Therefore, any position given to him was useless. Since he didn't want to be an elder, he could only be rewarded. Empyrean deity Yudong asked him to propose a reward. Yi Tianyun mentioned very bluntly that he needed all kinds of materials to refine a middle-grade heavenly venerate spiritual treasure. He could already refine a middle-grade heavenly venerate spiritual treasure now. One more treasure meant one more portion of strength. Empyrean deity Yudong naturally wouldn't be stingy. He directly gifted Yi Tianyun a large number of materials. Many of them were very good materials, enough for Yi Tianyun to refine a middle-grade heavenly venerate spiritual treasure. The rest of the matters basically had nothing to do with him. The heaven cultivation sacred realm wasn't his faction, and he wasn't an elder. Naturally, he could leave. However, he didn't choose to leave. Instead, he continued to stay here. He planned to refine a middle-grade heavenly venerate spiritual treasure first, then directly kill his way to the myriad sky sacred realm, or the sacred peak sacred realm. He would ruthlessly plunder their headquarters. Even if he didn't go, the heaven cultivation sacred realm's patriarchs had already made up their minds. After this matter was over, they would directly send a large group of people over to flatten the 2 sacred realms. Since the 2 sacred realms were attacking, how could they not take revenge? Therefore, they decided to immediately organize a group of people to head over after things had stabilized. Yi Tianyun definitely wouldn't miss this opportunity. He would either head over alone or go with them. It was undoubtedly safer to go with them. After all, the 2 sacred realms had their own foundation. It would be easy for problems to arise if he went alone. Let's refine this treasure first. Otherwise, it'll really be troublesome. After this battle, especially when facing powerful sky gods, he basically had no power to resist. As a result, his explosive attacks couldn't reach the level that they should have. If he wanted to replace the set, he would have to increase his cultivation base first. Without reaching the heavenly god stage, he would not be able to replace the set. One had to admit that the requirements were really high. One had to be a heavenly god to be able to purchase a higher grade set. Now he could only refine an Empyrean spirit treasure to defend himself. Otherwise, he would be insta-killed again. It looks like a middle-level Empyrean spirit treasure. Should be a defensive type. It has offensive capabilities, but its defensive capabilities are a bit weak. Etianyan felt that he still had a long way to go. Just relying on his physique to resist the attack was too difficult. Thus, the second Empyrean spirit treasure was decided to be a defensive treasure. Immediately after, he began to throw the materials into his body and began to condense them. Some of the materials were not enough. They were simply too rare, and so there weren't many of them. Not even Empyrean God Yidang had so many of them. Therefore, he could only throw it into the shop and sell it. Then, through the effect of duplication, he could make several copies of the materials. It was just that the price was shocking. However, no matter how shocking it was, he could only brace himself and buy it. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to refine good defensive equipment. It's about time. All that's left is a bit of time. Condensing a middle-level Empyrean spirit treasure was the same as condensing a lower-level Empyrean spirit treasure. He just needed to throw in all the materials, and the condensation would be successful. This was simply a blessing for those with bad hands. There was no need to invite a grandmaster. He could just refine it himself. After a period of condensation, the middle-level Empyrean spirit treasure quickly took shape. Then, 2 treasures were condensed. Gradually, as time passed, the patterns on the surface became clearer. Finally, what appeared in front of Etianyan were 2 wrist guards. The second Empyrean spirit treasure was a pair of wrist guards. They were things that were securely wrapped around the wrist. Because he was condensing 2 items, he consumed quite a bit of materials. Success! After the condensation was successful, Etianyan took it out and wore it on his wrist. There were still 5 faint dragons writhing on it. It was similar to his 5-dragon divine spear, possessing an extremely domineering power. This wrist guard didn't look too eye-catching. Who would have thought that it was a middle-level Empyrean spirit treasure? Now I have a defensive treasure. I can test its power next time. Etianyan's eyes flashed. This thing wasn't as ordinary as it looked on the surface. The effects it possessed were extremely different. Then I'll call it the 5-dragon wrist guards. He wanted to create a kind of set, the kind whose effects could be superimposed. It's about time. I wonder what's going on in the Heaven Cultivation God realm. Etianyan waved his hand. After feeling that it was about time, he went out of seclusion. The guards outside greeted him respectfully. Etianyan was the great benefactor of the Heaven Cultivation God realm. Seeing him was like seeing the great elder. They were very respectful. After coming out, he quickly learned that the Heaven Cultivation God realm had announced the general situation and executed the traitors in front of all the disciples. This was no different from what was said before. As for when to attack the Sacred Peak Divine Realm and the Myriad Heaven Divine Realm, it was basically decided to be next month. This operation was really swift and decisive. They immediately started preparing. The impact of this matter was too great. The Heaven Cultivation God realm had to do something to save their face. Destroying the 2 divine realms was the best way. And it was also a warning to the evil spirit race. Next month, we will attack the Myriad Heaven Divine Realm and the Sacred Peak Divine Realm. We plan to attack the Sacred Peak Divine Realm first. Among them, the Sacred Peak Divine Realm has the best relationship with the evil spirit race, so we will destroy the Sacred Peak Divine Realm first. The Heaven Cultivation Domain Lord said in the Great Hall. During the process, it is very likely that the evil spirit race will come to help, so the ones who go this time must be powerful, all of them above the Sky Sovereign Realm. Now start arranging the teams. You must listen to the captain's orders and not disobey. After making some simple arrangements, They began to gather the sky sovereigns, so that they could be arranged into small teams. The sacred peak divine realm was so vast, so a group of people would definitely be very slow. What they needed was an all-out assault. Domain Lord Xiaotian, I wonder if I can participate in this battle? At this time, Yi Tianyan's figure appeared in front of everyone. He would not miss this kind of battle. After all, he had always had a bit of enmity with the sacred peak divine realm. No problem, then you can join a small team. As for who to let follow you, Domain Lord Xiaotian, I'm willing to join his team. I'm willing too. I'm more willing. Empyrean Heavenly Cloud, my ability is not weak. I will definitely not drag you down. One by one, they pounced forward as if they were snatching people, wanting to snatch Yi Tianyan away. Chapter 1580. Yi Tianyan's popularity was very high. A group of people kept surging over, fighting to join Yi Tianyan's team. Originally, Yi Tianyan and the others were quite ostracized here. After all, they had come over to slap their faces and affect their rules. It was different now. Yi Tianyan had super strength, super standard, and had even saved the cultivation heaven divine realm. His popularity was basically equivalent to the Grand Elder's level. Therefore, how could they not want to join? They wanted to feel what it was like to have a 10 refinement Earth Lord Foundation, Heavenly Venerables up close. Yi Tianyan took a casual glance and said with a smile, everyone is very outstanding and powerful, but my team can only have 5 people. I can't accept too many people for the time being. However, these 5 people have already been decided. That's right. At this time, Heavenly Venerable Sword C and the others came out and smiled as they came to Yi Tianyan's side. Heavenly Venerable Sword C, Heavenly Venerable Dragon Cry, Heavenly Venerable Yu Qian, Heavenly Venerable Li, and finally Yi Tianyan. The entire team was full, and there were no more empty spots. From the beginning, they had planned to be a team, so there were no more empty spots to speak of. All right, they immediately revealed disappointed expressions. They had originally wanted to fight alongside Yi Tianyan, but now it seemed like they could only watch from afar. Although it was a pity, they could at least watch from afar. Soon, all the teams were allocated. The Great Deva stood out and said coldly, all the teams are here now. We will set off for the Sacred Peak Divine Realm later. We will not attack the Sacred Peak Divine Realm indiscriminately. As long as they are above the Divine Lord level, we will kill them all. Some things should be baptized with blood. They would not bully those with low cultivation. Especially those old, young, sick, and disabled, they would not attack them indiscriminately. They were not like the evil spirit race, nor were they like other vicious forces. They would still let those who should be let go. After all, the real culprit was not them. Some of them did not even know and directly let them go. Baptize with blood. Baptize with blood. Thinking back to how sullen they had felt earlier, how all of their disciples had been threatened. As long as the order was given, they would all be annihilated. One could well imagine how they felt. As an accomplice, the Sacred Peak Celestial Realm was naturally going to be annihilated. With their morale boosted, the Great Devas led them directly to the Sacred Peak God territory. Accompanying them were the 2 patriarchs. The rest of the old ancestors were all here. If all the experts left, there would be no one guarding this place. This was a rather dangerous matter. If an enemy attacked, it would be troublesome. Soon they charged toward the Sacred Peak's God realm. When they arrived at the Sacred Peak God realm, and were about to start a massacre, they were all stunned. Picking a random planet, one would see a tragic scene. All the cultivators, regardless of their cultivation level or age, had been annihilated. Some of them died miserably, some were split into pieces, and some were riddled with countless holes. When they saw this, they were all shocked by this scene. Yi Tianyan quickly flew down to check. After a while he said with a serious expression, "It's the evil spirit race." Evil spirit race? They quickly reacted. Among them, Heavenly Venerable Jianxi said in a deep voice, "Could it be that the failure of the Sacred Peak God realm angered the evil spirit race and caused a complete purge?" "That's very possible. Maybe they're still here to purge." Yi Tianyan's gaze was ice cold. He turned to look at the Great Devas and said, "Master, what should we do now?" "Destroy them." The great Deva said coldly, "Everyone listen up. Speed up and spread out in all directions. Kill the evil spirit race if you see them. If anything happens, immediately request reinforcements. Be careful." They did not expect the evil spirit race to be so ruthless. Their attack failed and they were wiped out by the evil spirit race instead. They did not even need to do anything, and the sacred peak god realm would disappear from this god realm forever. However, they did not want the evil spirit race to help them with this. They had to get rid of them first. Yes, Grand Elder. Following that, they spread out in all directions. Etienne's team also rushed forward to see if they could find the evil spirit race. These evil spirit race are really ruthless. Are they not showing mercy to the losers? Etienne's gaze was ice cold. The evil spirit race had always been high and mighty, and they were all extremely proud existences. Therefore, during the Great War back then, the divine spirit race had crazily eradicated them. They never thought that they would be so tenacious and not be exterminated. On the contrary, the divine spirit race was in a miserable state and had now fallen into a state of decline. Perhaps there were still some divine spirit race hiding in a corner, but no matter what, the decline of the divine spirit race was inevitable. Along the way, Etienne saw that the planets had been completely drained. Many cultivators had been killed and devoured by the evil spirit race. This feeling was truly disgusting. The existence of the evil spirit race was hundreds of times more disgusting than some of the demon race. After flying past quite a few planets, they finally saw living people in front of them. However, under the slaughter of the evil spirit race, the number of living people quickly decreased. There were not many evil spirit races in this group, only a few dozen of them. Their cultivation levels varied. The highest was only at the Divine Lord level, and the lowest was even at the Star Lord level. It was as if they were here to devour for cultivation, but now, it didn't look like they were devouring for cultivation at all. They were more like playing around. "Hahaha, you want to escape? Obediently come over here. Run, keep running. I like to see your expressions of despair when you run away. Weren't you quite arrogant just now? Now I'll kill all your loved ones one by one. Let's see how you can still be so arrogant." These evil spirit races were simply perverts. They were simply abusing them. When Etienne and the others saw this, they were enraged and flew over without any hesitation. Kill. Etienne turned into a ray of light and descended. Those evil spirit races did not even have the time to react, and were directly blasted into smithereens. "All of you must die." Etienne swept out once again, turning all the evil spirit races into smithereens. Perhaps he did not have a good impression of the sacred peak divine realm, but to trample on life like this was absolutely disgusting. Even if he died, he had to die with some respect. But they were just playing around with him. If he lost, he would accept it even if he was killed. However, casually playing with them was even more so trampling on their dignity. This was something that no cultivator would allow. This was the same logic as when the heavenly cultivation divine realm charged in. They would only kill those at the Divine Lord level and above. They disdained killing cultivators with low cultivation levels. Everyone had their own standards. Chapter 1581. Amongst so many races, the evil spirit race was shouted at by everyone, and was not allowed to exist. When the other divine realms fought, they would not kill all of them. They would only kill some of the upper echelons. As for those at the bottom, most of them were innocent. Most of them were just seeking stability, so there wouldn't be any problems. However, the evil spirit race was different. Those who failed were all executed. Those who were not of their race were also exterminated. Or those who were not allies, they were completely wiped out, leaving not a single one alive. It was precisely because of this that all the powers hated the evil spirit race so much. However, the evil spirit race was like those weeds. They grew again in the spring breeze and quickly recovered. It was impossible to burn them all. Very quickly, they completely exterminated these evil spirit races, and quickly flew to other planets to exterminate the other evil spirit races. "Thank you, benefactor. Thank you, benefactor." They all knelt down and kowtowed to Etienne and the others. They did not know Etienne, nor did they know why they were here. All they needed to know was that they had been saved, and that was enough. As they continued to advance, they saw more and more evil spirit races scattered across the surrounding planets, continuously carrying out indiscriminate slaughter. As long as it was a life, they would not let it go. Perhaps in their eyes, other than themselves, everyone else was food. But even food had its own dignity. Thus, they all started to resist. Those who could not resist could only choose to flee in all directions and hide. However, all of this was meaningless. They would all be easily found and could not be avoided. Tianyan swept through them once again, and cleaned them up. The group of cultivators all knelt down and kowtowed to them in thanks. Originally, they should have been hated by the sacred peak divine realm, but now, they had become their saviors. It wasn't just them, the other teams were the same. They all rushed over to exterminate groups of evil spirit races, but because their cultivations weren't high, they were all easily exterminated. Originally, even if all the experts of the sacred peak divine realm attacked, in addition to the side that was originally dealing with Tianyan, quite a few of them had already been annihilated. Right now, there were only a small number of experts left in the sacred peak divine realm, so they were isolated and helpless. Under the annihilation of the evil spirit race, they didn't even have the chance to resist. This verified domain Lord Xiutian's words. When there was value, the forces that relied on the evil spirit race could still survive and get a mouthful of soup. If they couldn't complete the mission, or if they were of no value, the result would be complete annihilation. They had seen this kind of situation many times, but there were still people who believed that this kind of misfortune would not befall them. But when the real disaster came, it was already too late for regrets. As they approached the center of the sacred peak celestial territory, they discovered that the main hall had been destroyed. There were corpses everywhere. As for where the sacred peak region lord had gone, they had no idea. At the very least, they knew that the sacred peak celestial realm was finished. The sacred peak region lord had escaped, and the patriarch of the sacred peak celestial realm was nowhere to be found. The rest were all disciples with ordinary cultivation, and they were slowly cleaned up by the evil spirit race. Fortunately, Tianyan and the others arrived just in time and suppressed the situation. There aren't any powerful evil spirit races, they are all a bunch of small fry. The great Devis and the others gathered back together. They thought that they would be able to catch a stronger evil spirit race, but who knew that they were all small fries? It's the same for us, it's all a bunch of small fries. It's the same for us. The teams gathered back one by one, and the reports they gave were all the same. There were no powerful existences. Whether it was the evil spirit race, the region lord of the sacred peak celestial realm, or the sky sovereign, none of them were here. Where are the sacred peak region lord and the others? Why aren't they here? Sky sovereign Jianxi and the others felt that this was the most strange. They definitely wouldn't send all of them out. The sacred peak region lord and the others would definitely stay here to guard. Now they were all gone. Not a single one of them could be seen. If they were here, the evil spirit race would definitely not be so impudent. I guess they must have truly joined the evil spirit race's side. Tianyan slowly raised his head and said, if they really joined the evil spirit race's side, could it be that they went to the evil spirit race's area? The eyes of Sky Sovereign Jianxi and the others were filled with shock. They abandoned their own forces and so many subordinates just like that? I think that should be the case. Tianyan shook his head. To some of the higher-ups, these were like ants. So what if they casually threw them away? They no longer had any value. After abandoning them, they were casually harvested by the evil spirit race, just like livestock that could be slaughtered at will. What was sad was that they had followed some heartless domain lords. They thought that they would have a good life, but now, it seemed that there was only a tragic ending. That's about it. This place has already been completely abandoned by them. They must have known that we would come back to attack, so they simply gave up and allowed the evil spirit race to do as they pleased. The great Devis shook his head. Based on this situation, I reckon that the myriad heaven divine realm is not much better off. If we go over now, we might be able to save some cultivators. Alright, let's go now. In their opinion, the myriad heaven divine realm might also be suffering from this kind of devouring. However, just as they were about to leave, Yi Tianyan suddenly extended his hand to stop them, signaling them to stop. Wait. Yi Tianyan's eyes narrowed, and he said in a deep voice, "Do you think it's possible for them to go back and launch a sneak attack on the cultivation heaven divine realm? This. But even our ancestor has come out. How dare they act so recklessly?" The great Devis and the others narrowed their eyes. But if that was really the case, it would be really troublesome. The ancestors have come out, but only 2 of them. What if they all move out, including the 2 great ancestors of the sacred peak divine realm, and the myriad heaven divine realm, in addition to the experts of the evil spirit race, or the ancestors of the cultivation heaven divine realm? Yi Tianyan said a long string of things, causing them to be dumbfounded. Previously, he had thought that the other party had already been defeated and would definitely not attack again. Now that he thought about it carefully, it was really possible that it would turn into a general attack. Taking advantage of the fact that a large number of experts had come out, they would circle around and attack fiercely, completely taking over the cultivation heaven divine realm. Just as they were worrying, the great Devis's expression changed. He took out a few jade pendants from his bosom, all of them broken, and not a single one of them was intact. "They're really here." The faces of the great Devis and the others darkened. Whatever they were worried about, it would happen immediately. These fellows had already predicted that the cultivation heaven divine realm would come to take revenge, so they gave up on this place and turned towards the general attack, wanting to completely devour the cultivation heaven divine realm. Chapter 1582. The great Devis and the others immediately turned around and prepared to rush back to the heaven cultivation god realm at their fastest speed. However, even if they rushed back at their fastest speed, it would still take a long time. By the time they got back, they did not know what the situation was like over there. Thus, they immediately boarded the spirit boat and flew towards the heaven cultivation god realm at their fastest speed. "Master, please wait a moment." Yi Tianyan indicated for them not to be in such a hurry. "What is it?" The great Devis stopped and asked doubtfully. "Everyone, please come in here. I will bring you back. I have a shuttle-type treasure that can only be used a few times. It can return to the heaven cultivation god realm at an extremely fast speed." Yi Tianyan said in a deep voice. He could only say that it was a shuttle-type treasure. He couldn't possibly say that he could easily return after setting up the coordinates, right? Wouldn't that be scaring them to death? There's such a treasure? And it can only be used a few times? The great Devis frowned and said, "Then I'll have to trouble you. After this matter is over, I will compensate you properly." There was no time to lose. Even if it was a waste, they could only accept it. They weren't being lured away from the mountain, but they had set a trap for themselves. The other party had completely calculated it, and had gone along with it to launch a sneak attack. At the same time, he had arranged for some evil spirit race to cause damage and attract their attention. Now he had saved the sacred peak god realm, but his own home was going to be destroyed. There's no need to talk about this now. Yi Tianyan summoned the myriad divine pagoda and gestured for them to come in. Without hesitation, they all entered. They trusted Yi Tianyan very much, so they naturally did not have any suspicions. After entering, Yi Tianyan immediately set the coordinates, and with a flash he disappeared. In the periphery of the heaven cultivation god realm, a group of powerful Empyrean gods were continuously attacking the sealed passageway. The ones who were working the hardest were the domain lord of the sacred peak, and the domain lord of the myriad heaven. Other than wanting to contribute, they also wanted to vent their anger. Their own power was gone. How could they not be angry? "It's all your fault. If it wasn't for you, how could my power be gone? Damn it, it's all gone. My forces are also gone. All of them have been offered up. If I don't flatten all of you this time, I won't be the domain master of the myriad heaven divine realm." They were extremely crazy, attacking this side fiercely. Apart from them, the other heavenly deities were also like this, who would be happy when their own forces were gone. In addition to all the Empyrean gods from the 2 great powers, there were also Empyrean gods from the evil spirit race. In total, there were more than 20 Empyrean gods. They were all extremely powerful and not ordinary Empyrean gods. Under the violent bombardment, the originally closed passageway was about to be blasted open. Closing the passageway was only equivalent to closing the door. If it continued to be bombarded, it would definitely be blasted open. When they come back, they will only see a pile of corpses. That will be the best feeling. The Sacred Peak Domain Master's eyes were red, and his attacks became more and more intense. From their point of view, it was Xiao Tian's God realm that caused them to end up in such a state. Not only were their forces gone, but their main mission was to take down the Heaven Cultivation Celestial Realm and flatten it. If they couldn't complete this mission, then it would be their turn to be finished. If their own forces were destroyed, they could rebuild them, but if they were destroyed, then what was the point? The key was that they were blaming the Heaven Cultivation Celestial Realm for everything, instead of finding fault with themselves. The Heaven Cultivation Celestial Realm, and the others inside the Heaven Cultivation Celestial Realm all wore grave expressions. In order to exterminate them, they had sent out about half of their powerful cultivators, leaving the other half. Most importantly, they had already lost a lot of people. Even if only half of them remained, it would still be very difficult to resist. Even if the patriarchs came out, they had to be cautious. After all, the other side also had a patriarch, and there was also an old acquaintance outside, Empyrean God Torrential Clouds. Empyrean God Torrential Clouds organized the other Empyrean gods to launch a ferocious assault on the passageway. Empyrean God Torrential Clouds was the patriarch of this place, so he was very familiar with the defenses here. Thus, they were attacking the weak points of this place. Judging from the current situation, it wouldn't be long before their defenses completely crumbled. Empyrean God Torrential Clouds, I didn't think you would become their accomplice. Have you completely forgotten about our old friendship? Empyrean God Yulong roared. Old friendship? Open your eyes and see who I am. Empyrean God Torrential Clouds chuckled coldly, as four wings suddenly sprouted from his back. He was a member of the Evil Spirit tribe. All of them were completely dumbstruck. Who would have thought that the comrade they had spent so much time with would be a member of the Evil Spirit tribe? This was how the Evil Spirit tribe was. No matter how much they nurtured them, they would never grow close to them. Regardless of whether they had saved their comrade or not, none of it mattered. This was the best proof of that. They had nurtured them for so many years for nothing, only to be stabbed in the back. Who would have thought that you would be a member of the Evil Spirit tribe? Empyrean God Yulong and the others wore dark expressions. They really couldn't tell that Empyrean God Torrential Clouds was a member of the Evil Spirit tribe. They had no idea how he was able to conceal his aura so perfectly that they were unable to detect him. That's right. I am a member of the Evil Spirit tribe. Empyrean God Torrential Clouds chuckled coldly. If you really want to remember our past friendship, then surrender and sign a slave contract. I'll spare you and even nurture you well. Of course, you have to hand over that treasure of yours as well. Empyrean God Yulong has been holding on to it for so long, it's time for you to hand it over. That treasure. Empyrean God Yulong's expression darkened as a smile of rage appeared on his face. So you've been eyeing that treasure from the very beginning. Let me tell you, it's something that will never happen. I knew it would never happen. Aside from you, no one has been willing to hand it over to you this entire time. Seeing as that's the case, I can only take it from you. Don't say that I don't care about our past friendship then. Empyrean God Torrential Clouds splayed his hands open with a smile. Look at all the powerful beings on my side. Do you really think you can still resist after all these setbacks? I have to say, you really are stupid. Do you really think that we won't dare to launch a sneak attack? You even sent out so many powerful beings. By the time they come back, all they'll see will be a pile of corpses. Empyrean God Torrential Clouds' eyes were filled with disdain. However, it's exactly because of your stupidity that we've been forced to plan ahead. Could it be that our Heaven Cultivation God realm is truly doomed this time? They had just endured a life-or-death tribulation, and now they were facing another one. It could only be said that their boldness had far exceeded the imagination of the Heaven Cultivation God realm leaders. Chapter 1583. Yi Tianyun's sudden appearance immediately attracted the attention of many cultivators, and all of them turned to look in his direction. However, when they noticed that he was an intermediate-level heavenly venerate, they ignored him, thinking that he was just a passerby. Realm Lord Xiaotian and the others were stunned upon seeing Yi Tianyun's return. Why had Yi Tianyun suddenly returned? Where did this brat come from? He must be tired of living. An upper-level celestial master on the side pressed his finger and quickly flew over, wanting to kill Yi Tianyun. In this area, Yi Tianyun was the only outsider. Everyone else was on their side, so they naturally had to come and take care of him. Heavenly God Sky Cloud also noticed Yi Tianyun, and his pupils contracted as he roared. "This is the brat who ruined our plan. Hand him over to me." Heavenly God Sky Cloud immediately recognized Yi Tianyun as the brat who had ruined their plan, and he immediately turned to attack Yi Tianyun in an attempt to kill him. If it weren't for Yi Tianyun, how would their plan have turned out like this? This was all Yi Tianyun's fault. As such, he was going to kill Yi Tianyun even if he had to swallow his pride. In particular, Yi Tianyun was not as simple as they had imagined. He was a very troublesome brat. All of the heavenly venerates were dumbstruck. An intermediate-level heavenly venerate was asking an ancient heavenly god to intervene? Just what had this brat done to incur heavenly god Sky Cloud's wrath? Realm Lord Xiaotian and the others' expressions shifted. They were unable to provide reinforcements, and heavenly god Yidang's heart tightened. Yi Tianyun had helped them, so he was still the benefactor of the heavenly cultivation god realm. If he were to die like this, how would the heavenly cultivation god realm maintain their dignity? A faint smile appeared on Yi Tianyun's face as he looked at the oncoming heavenly god Sky Cloud. He waved a hand, and the myriad god pagoda flew out. As it grew bigger, a bunch of cultivators rushed out, including the other two patriarchs. As soon as they came out, they immediately formed a circle in front of Yi Tianyun and prepared for battle. How can this be? The appearance of the great Devas gave heavenly god Torrential Cloud a fright, and he immediately stopped in his tracks. After all, there were two great ancestors here, and their strength was comparable to his. If they really fought, he would definitely be at a disadvantage. The other Empyrean deities were all shocked. The Sacred Peak Region Master and the others all stopped their attacks and looked over in a daze. Didn't they say that it would take a long time for them to return here? It might not take too long, but it would take at least a few days or even a week. After all, the distance between the two of them was quite far. Who would have thought that they would already be back when they had just started? Furthermore, they were brought back by a mysterious kid. This treasure is really amazing. I really came back in an instant. How could the vast heavenly deity and the others not be shocked? Such a shocking speed caused them to be stupefied. Even if they activated their spirit ships at full power, they wouldn't be able to do this. It would take at least a few days, and by the time they got back, the battle would most likely have already begun or ended. Now that they had come back in an instant, they didn't even have time to warm up before returning to the Heaven Cultivation God realm. This type of shuttle-type treasure was definitely an extremely rare type. It was definitely a life-saving treasure. After coming out, they didn't pounce forward. After all, they had brought a lot of cultivators with them, and they were more powerful than all of them. If they hadn't made it back in time, they would have been far more powerful than the cultivators in the Heaven Cultivation God realm. The current situation was that they had surrounded Empyrean God Tower Cloud, and the others in a circle. What's going on? They can come back so quickly? Aren't they already wreaking havoc on the Sacred Peak region? Heavenly God Torrential Cloud and the others wore dark expressions. They had thought that they would be able to take down the Sacred Peak region easily, but it didn't look like it would be that easy. Even though they had many patriarchs on their side, the Sacred Peak Patriarch, the Myriad Heaven Patriarch, and Patriarch Torrential Cloud made up 3 patriarchs. As for the Evil Spirit Tribe, they didn't have any patriarchs. Only a few heavenly gods had come to reinforce them. The Evil Spirit Tribe's patriarchs definitely couldn't be mobilized unless it was absolutely necessary. However, even though Heavenly God Torrential Cloud was an Evil Spirit Tribe patriarch, it was already very impressive that one of them had been mobilized. If many patriarchs were to appear, it would be very troublesome. This would attract the attention of some of the ancient bastards, and they would all wake up. The Evil Spirit Tribe was wreaking havoc in the surrounding divine realms, But those ancient bastards hadn't come out because the situation wasn't serious enough. Unless the situation was extremely serious, they wouldn't come out. It's all his fault. Heavenly God Torrential Cloud focused his gaze on Tianyun again. Tianyun had appeared out of thin air before bringing a large group of people with him. It was undoubtedly his appearance that had disrupted their plans. Could it be that you're a disciple of the Fecta realm? Heavenly God Torrential Cloud stared intently at Tianyun, trying to glean something from his eyes. A disciple of the Fecta realm? Tianyun shrugged. I don't even know what you're talking about. The Fecta realm was an extremely mysterious divine realm that was almost impossible to find. It was almost as if it didn't exist in this world. However, it did exist in this world, and it possessed extremely intricate treasures that could unleash astonishing power. In reality, it was the equivalent of a super powerful divine craftsman who could create many intricate treasures. For example, there really were treasures that could allow one to instantly pass through several divine realms. However, no one had ever been to the Fecta realm, and no one knew where it was. There were still treasures from the Fecta realm on the market, and all of them were extremely dazzling, causing people to fight over them. Now that Tianyun had displayed such bizarre methods, they couldn't help but wonder if Tianyun was actually from the Fecta realm. However, it was true that Tianyun wasn't from the Fecta realm. He knew about the Fecta realm, but he wasn't a disciple of the Fecta realm. How could little junior brother be a disciple of the Fecta realm? Heavenly Sovereign Sword Ruler and the others all laughed. They had accompanied him all the way here from the outer divine realms. The disciples of the Fecta realm were extremely precious. How could they have come from the outer divine realms? The disciples of the Fecta realm were all super geniuses. There was no need for them to play around like this. Moreover, the disciples of the Fecta realm were extremely strict. They couldn't leave the Fecta realm as they pleased. Unless they were given special permission, they were not allowed to leave. If they left without permission, they would be severely punished. He's not a disciple of the Fecta realm? Heavenly God Torrential Cloud's eyes were cold. Then you have a treasure from the Fecta realm. What a miscalculation. You're the one who ruined both of our plans. Damn you. Chapter 1584. Tianyun had foiled his plans twice in a row. How could he not be enraged? Even though there was a massive disparity in their cultivation bases, Heavenly God Sky Cloud was going to kill him even if he had to throw away his pride. Do you think I'd help you if I didn't foil your plans? Idiot. Tianyun said sarcastically. He didn't put Heavenly God Tao Yin in his eyes at all. Heavenly God Sky Cloud flared up with rage, and he pointed a finger toward them. Kill those bastards over there first. I'll take care of this evil brat. Heavenly God Sky Cloud had really swallowed his pride. He was telling everyone that he was going to kill Tianyun first in front of so many cultivators. This was simply inconceivable. A high and mighty ancient heavenly god was swallowing his pride to attack an intermediate heavenly venerate? It was shameful to say that he had lowered himself like this. Heavenly God Sky Cloud didn't feel humiliated. Instead, he was enraged, and he wanted to kill Tianyun. How could he not be enraged after spoiling two of his plans? All of his plans had been so perfect, but they had all been ruined. He could have taken down the cultivation god realm without expending a single soldier. Not only had he suffered countless casualties, but even the two puppet god realms had been completely destroyed. This was a chain reaction that made him want to vomit blood. Thank God he hadn't alerted those old bastards. Otherwise, the problem would have been even more severe. Heavenly God Sky Cloud, if you want to touch him, you'll have to ask the two of us first. The two patriarchs positioned themselves in front of Heavenly God Sky Cloud. If they were going to settle scores, then they were going to settle scores with one another. Piss off. Heavenly God Sky Cloud quickly summoned his Heavenly Venerate Spirit Treasures, including the Heavenly God Spirit Treasures. 5 spirit treasures appeared around him. At the same time, 5 arms appeared on his back, each of which was wielding a weapon. He was truly going to fight for his life. Evil Spirit Tribe cultivators had multiple arms, which meant that they could unleash even more power. Boom. The battle was about to commence, and Heavenly God Sky Cloud's charge officially commenced. Following the other heavenly deities, they all attacked together. When facing enemies, their eyes were definitely bloodshot. The Holy Peak Realm leader and the others also charged forward. Seeing as they couldn't open the passageway right away, they had to kill the Great Devis and the others first. Open the passage. Empyrean God Yudong and the others immediately gave the order to open up the passageway. Previously, the disparity in power had been too great. They wanted to first observe the situation before making any further plans. Now that everyone was back, it was time to have a good fight. Heavenly God Yudong took the initiative to open up a passageway, and all of them quickly charged out with Heavenly God Yudong at the lead. This time the battle really began. Everyone brandished their weapons and attacked fiercely. The battle quickly became white-hot. Open! At that moment, a huge divine tree descended from the void. A vast life force descended in all directions, enveloping all the cultivators. At this time, they were surprised to find that their healing abilities had greatly improved. Without a doubt, this was the Etianyan Voodoo Wood Divine Set. The effects would decrease as one's cultivation increased, but it was still quite effective for heavenly deities, so it was better than having no effect at all. Of course, as Etianyan's cultivation increased, the effects would also increase. Therefore, it could be maintained at a very good level. This way, it would have a strong healing effect on all cultivators. Not only did Etianyan activate super strong healing, but he also constantly rushed toward other Empyrean powerhouses. He might not be able to kill heavenly deities, but killing those Empyreans was not a problem. This healing ability is really amazing. What kind of move is this? Empyrean Skycloud is too amazing. He has this kind of ability? The injuries he just suffered recovered immediately. It's several times faster than before. It's really amazing. We don't have to worry about getting injured when we fight with them. Even if we get injured, we'll be fine after a little rest. When they sensed this power, they were all astonished. Even the elders were extremely shocked. Empyrean Swordsy and the others had already felt it. When they saw their expressions, they thought of their own expressions. They were indeed deeply shocked. Ding successfully killed an upper-level Empyrean. Obtained experience. Ding successfully killed a middle-level Empyrean. Obtained experience. Ding successfully killed a. Under the blessing, they became braver and braver as they fought. They were not afraid of getting injured, so they could naturally crush them with irresistible force. At the same time, with the help, Etianyan could also obtain a shocking amount of experience. He didn't even need to do anything to earn a large amount of experience. He had wanted to do this before, but the range was limited. If he hunted them from all directions, his healing range would not be able to reach them. Therefore, he decided not to activate it and could only slowly do it himself. Now it was different. They were all gathered together and fighting, so everything was within his range of control. Under such circumstances, his experience was rapidly increasing, and it was no longer a dream to level up quickly. Kill. Etianyan's speed skyrocketed. The astonishing speed of the Kuanpeng bloodline was unleashed here. Killing Empyreans was as easy as drinking water. Suddenly, he was like a harvester, harvesting everything in his path. This situation scared Empyrean God Torrential Clouds and the others. He had this kind of ability? This brat is really strange. Kill him first. The Sacred Peak Region Master and the others all agreed with Empyrean God Torrential Cloud's words. This was really too strange. Not only did he ruin their plans, but he was also using such a strange technique in battle. They had seen people who could heal injuries, but they had never seen someone who could heal such a large area. They couldn't even hold their own against him. Even if they kept taking pills, they wouldn't be able to keep up with his healing. As soon as the order was given, several heavenly gods quickly surrounded Etianyan. One by one, they burst out their strongest power and rushed towards Etianyan. They had to kill Etianyan first no matter what. They could put Xiutian Region Master and the others aside and focus on killing Etianyan first. If you want to kill him, you'll have to ask us first. The Great Devis and the others quickly intercepted them, and engaged in a fierce battle with these heavenly gods. They had to protect Etianyan no matter what. Regardless of whether it was when they had saved the Xiutian God realm, or now that they were in an extremely important position, they had to prioritize Etianyan. There was a significant difference in overall strength between the two sides. With Etianyan's powerful healing, they might be able to win this battle, and they might even suffer very few losses. As such, they had to protect Etianyan no matter what. For a time, it could be said that Etianyan was protected inside and out. As the healer, he continuously cast healing techniques from the center, allowing them to heal quickly. This voodoo wood divine set is really good stuff. If I can continue to upgrade it, wouldn't it be heaven-defying? Etianyan would use this voodoo wood divine set every time he fought a team battle. It was definitely a life-saving divine tool. Chapter 1585. Etianyan was completely unscathed by the layers of protection around him. As for Heavenly God Torrent Cloud's rage, it couldn't even reach Etianyan. If Heavenly God Torrent Cloud were to charge over, then the other patriarchs really wouldn't be able to survive. After all, they had a massive advantage over the patriarchs. They had 4 of them. As for the heavenly gods, they did indeed have fewer, but with Etianyan's healing, they would be able to hold on. Now it was time to see who could hold on longer. The first to collapse would be the first to lose. Judging from the current situation, it was clear that Heavenly God Torrent Cloud's side would collapse. After all, no matter how much they healed, they wouldn't be able to match up to Etianyan's full support. Etianyan was currently enjoying the experience points rolling in. He didn't even need to do anything to earn a large sum of experience points. At first, he had wanted to participate in the battles, but later on, he wasn't even allowed to participate. They were all protecting him, which made him feel quite exasperated. The main thing was that he was the main force of the main force. He could control all the risks and heal all the cultivators. As such, he was no longer allowed to fight. The others would fight, while Etianyan would be responsible for healing. However, he was quite happy with this arrangement. After all, as a support healer, he would be able to earn everything from the cultivators the others killed, including those items. If he were to charge around recklessly, they would be terrified. They definitely didn't want him to do as he pleased. Unless he didn't use the voodoo wood divine set in the first place, no one would stop him. Right now, he could only stay here obediently and watch as they made their move. Even so, there were still a few heavenly gods charging over in a frenzy. The rest of the cultivators didn't pay any attention to them. Instead, they all charged over and sent the group of heavenly gods who were intercepting them flying. None of the injuries on their bodies remained. At most, they would take some pills and attack again. In contrast, Etianyan's side didn't even need to take pills to heal their injuries. This was extremely easy. If they felt like they were too slow, they could take pills to heal themselves. How were they supposed to die? Unless he poked his head out and faced an existence with a cultivation several levels higher than him, he wouldn't die no matter what. It was precisely because they knew this that they rushed over in a frenzy. No matter what, they had to kill Etianyan first. Get out of my way! The group of Empyrean gods roared angrily. Among them, the Sacred Peak Region Master was the vanguard. The power of a mid-level Empyrean god was naturally not to be underestimated. No matter what, it was the joint attack of 2 great forces. If they couldn't even unleash a little bit of power, it would really be terrible. However, the people of the Heaven Cultivation God realm were also desperately trying to stop them. The 2 of them clashed back and forth, creating intense explosions that swept out in all directions. It had been a long time since such an intense battle had occurred. Hold on. We must hold on. Area Lord Xiutian's eyes were bloodshot. No matter what, they had to hold on to this place and prevent the enemy from killing their way in. Under their stubborn defense, they really managed to resist their attacks again and again. Vaguely, they even had a suppressive effect. Just when they thought they could hold on, suddenly, a figure appeared behind Etianyan, holding a long sword and slashing at his waist. The sharp sword technique only took 1 stab, but it had the effect of waving 100 swords, instantly enveloping Etianyan's body. A mole. The people who noticed this quickly felt their hearts sink. What they saw was actually Heavenly Venerate 100 Swords making a move. Heavenly Venerate 100 Swords had always been on their side, and he was a very good upper-level Heavenly Venerate. The explosive power he could unleash could exchange hundreds of blows with a lower-level Empyrean god, without being defeated. They didn't expect that Heavenly Venerate 100 Swords, who had always been very upright, was actually a mole. He had quietly come over, seemingly to protect Yi Tianyun, but in reality, he was risking his life to kill Yi Tianyun. The Heavenly Venerates around him narrowed their eyes. They wanted to rush over to help, but it was already too late. The Sacred Peak Region Master and the others all revealed cruel smiles. Finally, the mole that they had planted here had worked. Even when the plan was launched, they did not expose all the mole, and they were still planted here. They did not expect to use it at this time, and everything was perfect. The attack had already locked onto Yi Tianyun, and there was basically no way for him to escape. In addition, his strength was not weak, and he could even exchange hundreds of blows with the Empyrean god without being defeated, which meant that his strength was enough to instantly kill Yi Tianyun. An upper-level Heavenly Venerate could not instantly kill a middle-level Heavenly Venerate? That was impossible. Die. The Spirit Sword in Heavenly Venerate 100 Swords' hand turned into countless piercing rainbows, directly locking onto Yi Tianyun's head, making sure to kill him in one blow. Heavenly Venerate Swordmaster and the others on the side saw this situation, and only glanced at it indifferently, too lazy to care. Only those cultivators who did not know about Yi Tianyun's situation felt that their hearts were about to fly out of their chests. If Yi Tianyun died, their long-term combat power would definitely drop a lot. Swoosh! A ray of light that was faster than this long sword directly penetrated Heavenly Venerate 100 Swords' head, directly blasting him into pieces. As for those attacks, they did not even touch his skin. Not to mention killing Yi Tianyun, they did not even have the chance to interrupt his healing. He was instantly killed. Sacred Peak Region Master and the others' crazy smiles froze just like that. None of them had seen Yi Tianyun's power, and they thought that Heavenly Venerate 100 Swords would definitely be able to kill him in one blow. Who would have thought that it would be Heavenly Venerate 100 Swords who would be killed in one blow? You want to kill me with just this guy? Yi Tianyun said indifferently. No matter what, you should at least send a few heavenly gods. How can these small fries be enough to fill my teeth? Heavenly Venerate Swordmaster and the others laughed. Thinking back to when Yi Tianyun was not a Heavenly Venerate, he could instantly kill a middle-level Heavenly Venerate, and even fight against an upper-level Heavenly Venerate. Now that he had broken through to become a middle-level Heavenly Venerate, a mere upper-level Heavenly Venerate wanted to play with him? Without a Heavenly God level, it was impossible to get close. Damn it! They roared. If this continued, they would definitely be in more and more danger. How were they supposed to play when that time came? Were they supposed to retreat now? If they retreated, they would not be willing to. Of course, Region Master Xiaotian and the others also did not want to let them leave. They would do their best to keep them here and not let them escape. They also would not allow these guys to come and go as they pleased. No matter what, they had to give them an explanation. Give it your all. Sacrifice yourselves for me. At this moment, Heavenly God Torrential Cloud said indifferently, "When my lord becomes a god emperor, you will all be revived." The Sacred Peak Region Master and the others were startled. Then, their eyes turned red, and they gritted their teeth. They had no choice. They had already sworn oaths and could not resist orders. Chapter 1586. The Sacred Peak Region Lord and the Myriad Heavens Region Lord were going to sacrifice themselves to unleash their greatest power. It wasn't just the Sacred Peak Region Lord and the Myriad Heavens Region Lord. All the other cultivators were going to unleash their greatest power. Or rather, they were going to burn all of their power. The effect of this was naturally extremely bad. They would either die or be heavily injured. There was no other choice. Especially in a situation where he had to defeat his opponent. If he couldn't win for a long time, he would definitely die first. Could they survive by burning their own life force? Empyrean God Torrential Cloud told them to burn their life force to release themselves. Given the current situation, if they didn't do this, it would be a waste of time. If they kept delaying, they would definitely die. Even though burning their life force might not be able to defeat their opponents, it was better than being stuck in a stalemate. His Excellency will revive us. The Sacred Peak Region Lord and the Myriad Heavens Region Lord's eyes turned bloodshot. They began to burn their life force like crazy believers. It wasn't just them. The other cultivators all began to burn their life force as well. Only the evil spirit race didn't do so. The others all began to burn their life force. They were going all out, and they were burning their life force to a great extent. They immediately detonated their life force, causing their combat power to skyrocket. Although the price was high, the effect was the most obvious, and it could be seen immediately. The expressions of Xiaotian Region Lord and the others changed. They didn't expect everyone to start burning their life force. This way, they who were already at a slight disadvantage would definitely suffer a heavy blow, unless they also burned their life force, but burning their life force against them would be fatal. Neither pills nor Etiennen's powerful healing abilities could easily replenish their life force. The two were not on the same level. If it was so easy to heal them, they would have gone crazy long ago. How crazy? All of them are burning their life force. All of them are madmen. No, they were forced to do so. Etiennen glanced at them. In truth, none of them wanted to burn their life force, much less continue fighting. But they had no other choice. Empyrean God Torrential Cloud had them under his control. The Myriad Heavens Region Lord and the Sacred Peak Region Lord had to listen to him. As for the others, they had to listen to the Sacred Peak Region Lord and the others. Thus, as soon as they were given the order, they would all explode. Then, they would be entrusted to that illusory Lord. Once they became God Emperors, they would be revived. Who knew when they would become God Emperors? In any case, they were going to burn themselves now. Empyrean God Tower Cloud was doing all of this for the sake of that treasure. As for what sort of treasure it was, Etiennen wasn't sure. The reason why Empyrean God Surging Cloud was willing to risk his life to conquer the Heaven Cultivation God realm was because of that treasure. The Cultivation Heaven Domain Lord was also willing to risk everything to protect this treasure. They're going all out. We're going all out too. Region Lord Xiaotian roared and took the lead in burning his own life force. They also didn't want to burn their life force. Even if they survived, they would suffer severe injuries that would take a long time to recover. Some of them couldn't recover no matter what they did, and had to be supplemented with precious elixirs in order to recover. But now that things had come to this, they could only choose to fight with their lives on the line. But overall, they definitely had an advantage over their opponents. Although Etiennen's healing couldn't fill the gap left by life ignition, it could at least heal their injuries. They were both fighting with their lives on the line, but at least they could fight for a while longer. The two groups began to fight fiercely. The Holy Peak Region Lord and the Myriad Heavens Region Lord led the heavenly gods in a vicious charge. This time, their goal is still the same. That is to kill Etiennen first. Everything else can be put aside. Only by killing Etiennen, who could heal them, would they have a chance to kill Realm Lord Xiaotian and the others. Stop them! Realm Lord Xiaotian roared and unleashed all of his power to block the heavenly gods. They weren't the only ones. The patriarchs and the others also unleashed all of their power, all of them willing to sacrifice themselves. Empyrean God Tower Cloud's words were absolute orders. This was the tragedy of signing a contract. Everything was not up to them. It was up to others to decide. This was truly a tragedy. Piss off. The Holy Peak Region Lord and the others were responsible for paving the way. The two Peak Stage Region Lords were naturally powerful, and they charged forward, knocking aside a group of heavenly gods. The other heavenly gods behind them charged forward as well. They wanted to kill Etiennen by force. They wouldn't stop until they killed Etiennen. Hurry up and stop them. Realm Lord Xiaotian and the others yelled, signaling the other elders to come and help. However, there was still a huge disparity in overall strength, so they couldn't help. In the end, two explosive heavenly gods charged toward Etiennen. Oh no! Their hearts went cold. Forget about the other Empyreans, but an explosive heavenly deity, that was in existence on a whole different level. Even if they were lower heavenly gods, their power was still astonishing. They could definitely fight against ordinary lower heavenly venerables, or even late heavenly venerables. Etiennen was only a middle heavenly venerable. How could they deal with him? Even heavenly venerable Jianxi and the others were nervous. This was a heavenly god that was burning his life force. How could they deal with him easily? Tianyan narrowed his eyes. Indeed, explosive heavenly gods gave him great pressure, but that was all. Level up. Ding. Congratulations to player, Tianyan, for successfully breaking through to middle heavenly venerable middle stage. Through continuous accumulation of experience, he had already reached the level of breaking through. Facing two heavenly gods, he naturally had to continue to level up. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to deal with them. 5 dragons roar. Tianyan waved the 5 dragons' divine spear in his hand. 5 giant dragons whizzed forward. Combined with the effect of crazy damage mode, his combat power was greatly increased. The 5 giant dragons collided with them, and with a boom, the 2 explosive heavenly gods were blown away. His astonishing battle prowess stunned them all. A middle heavenly venerable could explode with the strength of a heavenly god? Wasn't this a joke? Reality wasn't joking with them. Tianyan's attack caused them to quickly separate, and at the same time, they suffered some injuries. This was facing a pincer attack from 2 heavenly gods, and he was still able to repel them. This power was terrifying. This wasn't over yet. A figure suddenly appeared beside one of the heavenly gods. It was Tianyan's body that wasn't considered burly. When he appeared beside the heavenly god, he fiercely swung his spear and directly pierced through the heavenly god's head. The attack was so fast that the heavenly god couldn't even react. After breaking through, he was even more heaven-defying. Chapter 1587. An explosive celestial was still killed by Tianyan. This kind of strength was really amazing. Tianyan was also surprised by his own strength. The increase in the basic foundation, coupled with the crazy damage mode, was really a perfect match. In addition, these celestial gods were not familiar with his fighting style, so they were naturally easily killed. Even if they exploded, they would still be killed by him. Bastard! After the other celestial god reacted, he roared and continued to attack. This time, he was prepared and was on full alert, worried that Tianyan would choose to sneak attack again. But Tianyan did not even think of continuing to sneak attack. Sneak attacks were fresh the first time, but a second time might not work. Especially against these celestial gods who used their full strength, the difficulty was undoubtedly a little higher. Open for me. The 5 dragon bracers in Tianyan's hands flashed, and light quickly rushed up from the bracers and poured into the 5 dragon divine spear, directly increasing its power by a large margin. 5 dragon strengthening can greatly enhance the power of the 5 dragon divine spear, and at the same time increase the strength of the arm by 10 times. This was the skill effect of the bracers. Not only could it enhance the power of the 5 dragon divine spear, but it could also increase the strength of one's arm by 10 times. This was the effect of a middle-level Empyrean spirit treasure, and it was quite amazing. Boom! The 5 dragons that shot out became several times larger, and their power greatly increased. This celestial god who rushed over stared with wide eyes. He did not expect that Tianyan could still become stronger, and he thought that was the limit. With a crazy exchange of blows, Tianyan actually exchanged several blows with this celestial god, and there was no sign of him being defeated. Not only that, but the healing effect of Tianyan continued, and did not stop. Their original goal was to interrupt Tianyan's healing, or kill him. Now let alone kill Tianyan, they could not even interrupt his healing. As expected of a celestial god who burns his life, even if he increased his cultivation and erupted with 2 Empyrean spirit treasures, it is still not easy to deal with him. Tianyan brandished the 5 dragon divine spear in his hand in a frenzy. His opponent also continuously blocked or counterattacked. But in his heart he was horrified. A mere mid-level Empyrean was normally just an ant. But now not only was this ant not weak, he even had the power to counterattack. Forget about him. Even the others were deeply shocked. The heavenly god on their side was almost beaten up. Haha, junior brother broke through again. This is truly inconceivable. Even if a heavenly deity went all out, they wouldn't be able to do anything to him. Little junior brother is indeed little junior brother. He doesn't need us to worry at all. He always makes us worry for nothing. that's right. We've been worrying for nothing. Every time, they turn their inferior quality into an advantage and crush them easily. Heavenly Venerable Sword C and the rest heaved a sigh of relief. They originally thought that Etionyan would be attacked fiercely, but who knew that it would be the other party who would be attacked fiercely? Even if they tied, Etionyan would still be the winner. After all, Etionyan didn't burn his life. If the other party burned his life, in terms of endurance he would definitely be inferior to Etionyan. If this continued, Etionyan would definitely win. What's going on? Is he still a Heavenly Venerable? Sacred Peak Region Master. And the rest didn't know where Etionyan came from. How could he be so heaven-defying? Again. Etionyan laughed loudly and fought to his heart's content. He crazily brandished the 5-dragon divine spear in his hand, and the 5-dragon gauntlet kept increasing his strength. Every time he smashed, his opponent would be knocked back a distance. It was a pity that he couldn't equip the evil Lord of Heaven set. Otherwise, his strength would definitely be even more heaven-defying. In order to be able to continue healing everyone, he could only do this, losing a portion of his combat power in exchange for the endurance of everyone, so it was still very worth it. Under Etionyan's suppression, the other party kept retreating. If this continued, he would definitely lose. He didn't expect that even with his full strength he could only fight to a draw. How could this heavenly god tolerate this? But he couldn't tolerate it, he couldn't kill Etionyan. On the contrary, as time passed, Etionyan gradually pressed down on him, making him unable to breathe. Finally, after a while, Etionyan took advantage of the gap in the opponent's defense and killed him with one move. Just like that, the sharp 5-dragon divine spear opened a hole in his body. This wasn't the end. Etionyan continued to sweep crazily and cut his opponent into 4 pieces. Ding, successfully killed a heavenly god. Reward: 6 million compressed EXP 50. 000 compressed crazy point. A bunch of data flooded Etionyan's mind again. Successfully killing a heavenly god made Etionyan feel very comfortable. Before he used a sneak attack and used all kinds of moves to kill a heavenly god. Now he can suppress a heavenly god with a frontal attack. Of course, this heavenly god's level can only be regarded as ordinary, not the top level, let alone an ancient heavenly god. But this is already enough to deter a group of people. Etionyan used his own strength to slap them in the face. So many people risked their lives to kill, and even 2 heavenly gods. The end result is death, no exception. These heavenly gods are not bad, but they are still a bit lacking. Can you send more? Etionyan just stood in the same place and continued to heal the injuries of his companions. Except for a slightly lower aura, the rest of the injuries were not a problem. He just consumed a bit more energy. The other injuries are really not a big deal. With the super healing effect, naturally there will be no problem. The St. Peak Domain Lord's face was pale. What can they do now? They had already gone all out in order for 2 heavenly deities to kill their way over. Now they really didn't have any spare time. A bunch of trash. Heavenly God Torrential Cloud cursed. He went all out on his side, but he can't even kill a heavenly master. How can he survive? What are you still doing? Be fierce, kill them all. Immediately after, Heavenly God Torrential Cloud cursed again, telling them to go all out. Don't delay anymore. Now that they are burning their life force, what is the concept of being fierce? Boom. Soon, a loud explosion sounded. The 2 heavenly gods in the process of fighting directly self-destructed. The power of a heavenly god's self-destruction is very terrifying. It directly blasted the surrounding cultivators. They were seriously injured. Some even had their legs broken. Some even lost half of their body. The effect of a heavenly god's self-destruction immediately manifested. It blasted a large number of people. The disadvantage is that even their own people were blown up. But the advantage is more obvious. It blew up a big hole. What is fierce? This is even more fierce. Chapter 1588. Boom. Another heavenly god exploded, sending Region Lord Xiao and the others flying. All of them were slightly injured. Fortunately, with the help of medicinal pills and Etionyan's super support, the injuries on their body quickly recovered. However, the gap had already been created, and 3 heavenly gods charged toward Etionyan. There had been 2 before, but now there were 3 heavenly gods. Their cultivation bases were a level higher than before, and one of them was a late-stage lesser heavenly god, far more powerful than the heavenly god who had fought against Etianyan. The heavenly god who had fought against Etianyan was only an early-stage lesser heavenly god. Now he had directly skipped 2 levels, and reached the level of a late-stage lesser celestial god. Coupled with the fact that he had burned his life force, there was no need to even mention how powerful he was. They self-detonated several heavenly gods, not only because they wanted to make Region Lord Xiaotian and the others pay the price, but also because they wanted to force them back, so they could rush over and kill Etianyan. They had really gone all out this time. They had paid a hefty price to kill Etianyan. However, this was the only price they could pay to break through the defense of Region Lord Xiaotian and the others. Region Lord Xiaotian and the others were not so aggressive. They had chosen to defend and slowly wear these guys down. However, these guys couldn't afford to wear them down, so they could only resort to cruel self-detonation. In the end, Heavenly God Torrential Cloud didn't want to take things slowly. He wanted to be quick and use the most violent method to suppress them. The effect was very obvious and very vicious. A large part of the sturdy defense was quickly disintegrated. This was the style of the evil spirit race. Even their own people were willing to pay any price to achieve their goals. Quick, go and save them. Region Lord Xiaotian gritted his teeth. He hadn't even been happy before, but now he had let quite a few heavenly gods go. Even if they were prepared, it would not be easy to stop such a self-detonation. Okay. The other heavenly gods wanted to quickly go and help, but there were several heavenly venerables standing in their way. Boom. These heavenly venerables self-detonated without hesitation, sending the heavenly gods who wanted to go and help them flying. He didn't expect that after the first wave of self-destruction, another wave would come. Now no one could come to help. It should be said that they couldn't help even if they wanted to. These fellows came one after another to self-destruct as if they didn't care about money. The many years of nurturing seemed to have been meaningless. With a single self-detonation, it was reduced to dust, leaving nothing behind. This was exactly what Empyrean God Torrential Cloud wanted. As long as he could win, everything else would be fine. Die. The eyes of the 3 heavenly gods that rushed over were red. If Etianyan didn't die, then they would. Numerous Empyrean spirit treasures appeared in the surroundings. They were already prepared to deal a fatal blow. 3 heavenly gods. Etianyan felt that things were getting tricky. These fellows were going all out, and they were even working together. It was possible to deal with them alone, but it would be quite difficult to deal with them together. However, he did not panic. Instead, he took a step forward and entered the void. The void bloodline wasn't just for show. As long as it was used well, it would have unexpected effects. He disappeared. He entered the void. He has the power of the void. The hearts of the 3 heavenly gods sank. Sure enough, they were not dealing with a small fry. Then, they waved the Empyrean spirit treasures in their hands, and attacked the void beside them. The void here was not sturdy and could be destroyed. Following a loud explosion, a large area of the void collapsed. Immediately after, a figure appeared behind them, waving the 5-dragon divine spear, and launching a sneak attack in their direction. However, they were already prepared. The 3 of them quickly joined forces, and the 9 Empyrean spirit treasures circled around, and launched a vicious pincer attack on Etianyan. They had already seen Etianyan's sneak attack ability before. How could they fall for it again? Thus, in the instant that Etianyan launched a sneak attack, they had already launched a pincer attack. Their coordination was seamless. Kuanpeng bloodline fully open. Dragon Phoenix divine meridians fully open. The 2 speed-enhancing bloodlines were fully activated here, and their speed instantly soared. They instantly escaped the pincer attack, and attacked the heavenly god with the lowest cultivation. Their attacks were very good, but Etianyan's speed was even more astonishing. After easily dodging the attack, he pierced through with his spear and stabbed one of the heavenly gods. At the same time he sneered and said, "I don't just have the ability to sneak attack, idiot." He quickly flicked and cut another heavenly god in half at the waist, killing him instantly. If Etianyan only had this bit of sneak attack ability, he would have died many times already. He had many abilities, and when he used them layer by layer, they knew what a nightmare was. The three of them launched a pincer attack, but one of them was still killed by Yi Tianyan. To them, it was really a great humiliation. However, they did not fly into a rage. Instead, they attacked again and directly surrounded him from all sides, sealing off all escape routes. Too naive. That was just bait. You can't escape this time. They used all their skills. If they still could not keep Yi Tianyan here, then they would really have to die. However, it was true that their companion was bait, but they absolutely did not expect that the bait would lead to their deaths. This was something they never expected. Now that things had come to this, they had no way out. They could only use their killer moves to directly suppress Yi Tianyan. In an instant, the heavenly venerate spiritual treasures that surrounded him, each one emitted a dazzling light. They were even completely overdrawing their heavenly venerate spiritual treasures. This time, they really went all out to kill this evil heavenly venerate to avoid future troubles. All the cultivators watching this side, whether they were on their side or the enemy's side, felt their hearts tighten. The Xiaotian domain master and the others felt that they could not be killed, but the enemy felt that they must be killed. You are too naive. Level up. Congratulations to player Yi Tianyan for successfully breaking through to the late middle heavenly venerate cultivation base. Boom. After deducting a large amount of experience, Yi Tianyan successfully leveled up again. All this time he had been constantly gaining experience. After all, as a support he could gain experience when others killed the enemy. Therefore, from the beginning of the fight he had been constantly earning experience, and now he could level up again. After leveling up, his aura was like a rainbow. He waved the 5-dragon divine spear in his hand, and directly collided head-on with them. 5-dragon roar. 5 giant dragons whizzed forward and collided with their attacks. Boom. A shocking explosion spread in all directions. The group of people's hearts tightened, and they all paid attention to this side. Was Yi Tianyan dead or alive? Chapter 1589. After being attacked fiercely, Yi Tianyan actually withstood it. This performance shocked them greatly. He can be even stronger. How is that possible? They all used all their skills. According to Yi Tianyan's previous performance, he definitely couldn't have easily withstood it. Now, not only did he resist, he could even withstand most of the power, and the injuries he suffered were only light injuries. This shocked them. Did he feel stronger again? Or was it that Yi Tianyan's defensive power was so strong to begin with? Carefree again. Yi Tianyan laughed loudly. It felt great to be able to face them head-on. This was the effect he wanted. Being able to crazily crush all the way, that was the right way. Although sneak attacks were also good, compared to facing them head-on, it was still lacking. He liked to use this kind of unparalleled strength to face the opponent head-on. That was manly. Yi Tianyan seemed to have become a warmonger now. He waved the 5-dragon divine spear and swept it down, stabbing down again and again, fighting to a draw with these Empyrean gods. Logically speaking, Yi Tianyan was still lacking, but he made full use of his advantage in speed, quickly dodging their attacks and then clashing head-on with them, achieving the effect of a draw. It seemed like a pity that it was a draw, but in everyone's eyes, this was the most terrifying thing. A middle Empyrean fighting to a draw with an Empyrean god was simply inconceivable. If it were anyone else who could do this. Even an ancient Empyrean couldn't play like this, right? It was already very good that an ancient Empyrean could exchange a few blows with an ordinary Empyrean god, and not be defeated. Now that he was fighting with 2 explosive Empyrean gods for so long, he was a freak among freaks. If this continued, Yi Tianyan would definitely win. After all, he didn't burn his life, but the other party did. As time passed, he would gradually become weaker and weaker, and soon he would be unable to do as he wished. Madman, he's definitely a madman. The 2 Empyrean gods had ugly expressions. Every attack was like hitting cotton. They couldn't exert any strength at all. No matter how fiercely they attacked, it was meaningless. If Yi Tianyan could dodge it, even if they fought him head-on, they would still fight to a draw. What was the point of playing? If this continued, they would be dead for sure. Not only were they doomed, but their companions were doomed as well. As long as Yi Tianyan remained, his healing effect would continue to envelop the entire area. His endurance far exceeded theirs, so naturally, they couldn't afford to play with him. Explode! The St. Peak Domain Master's eyes were red. He could only sacrifice 2 of his subordinates. The 2 Empyrean gods were stunned at first, then they gritted their teeth, their eyes filled with unwillingness. However, they still pounced forward without hesitation. After all, they had no control over their own bodies. They had signed an absolute loyalty contract, so they naturally had to listen to the orders of their region master. These god realms were just that sick. When they joined, they had to sign an absolute loyalty contract. If he wanted them to self-detonate, they had to do it. There was no other choice, and they couldn't resist it. The 2 of them attacked Yi Tianyan from the front and back. Then all the energy in their bodies burst out. Boom, boom, boom. The terrifying power of the explosion swept over and completely enveloped Yi Tianyan. The crazy explosion made it impossible for Yi Tianyan to teleport. This kind of explosion also had the effect of sealing the space. In particular, the explosion of the 2 Empyrean gods was equivalent to a super strong attack from an intermediate Empyrean god. Yi Tianyan quickly tore the space apart and quickly hid in the void. Even if he couldn't block all the attacks, he could at least block some of the power. Let's see how you survive this time. The St. Peak Domain Master's eyes were red. They had sacrificed so much this time, but they still couldn't kill Yi Tianyan. Soon, the explosion disappeared, and Yi Tianyan's figure appeared from the void. There was a thick layer of shield around his body. It was a super strong shield released from the wrist guard in his hand. Even so, he had still suffered serious injuries. His body was covered in blood, and he looked very miserable. However, with his super strong healing ability, his injuries recovered quickly. It wouldn't take long for him to completely recover. He's fine. The St. Peak Domain Master and the others were furious. 2 Empyrean gods had attacked from the front and back, and under such circumstances he was only injured. When the explosion happened before, even intermediate Empyrean gods would be injured, and some would even be on the verge of death. Under such circumstances, Yi Tianyan had only suffered relatively serious injuries, but they weren't fatal. He just needed a little more time to completely recover. There was no doubt that the explosion had failed, and it still didn't kill Yi Tianyan. Fortunately, I almost died. Yi Tianyan looked at the wrist guard in his hand. Fortunately, he had refined the 5-dragon wrist guard. Not only could it increase his strength, but it could also increase his defense to the maximum, forming a super strong shield that could withstand the attack of an Empyrean god. However, the attack was too strong. He hid in the void, and with the help of the 5-dragon wrist guard, he finally withstood it. This also had to do with his strong body. With a strong body and the power of 2 bloodlines, he wouldn't die so easily. Of course, he wasn't afraid of death at all. After all, he had been reborn from the ashes. However, the fact that he was able to withstand it also proved that he was not weak. It was even more shocking than being reborn from the ashes. This kind of explosion is like firecrackers. How disappointing. Can you come up with something stronger? Yi Tianyan laughed loudly. The injuries on his body were quickly recovering. Even though he couldn't move freely, he could still talk. All right. Everyone's morale soared when they saw that Yi Tianyan was fine. With Yi Tianyan's support, they would be able to continue fighting. At the same time, they were also very shocked by Yi Tianyan's strength. With this kind of strength, why would he need their protection? Trash. What a bunch of trash. You can't even kill him like this? What a bunch of trash. Empyrean God Skysurge was about to explode with rage. They had paid such a heavy price, but they couldn't even take down a heavenly venerate. To him, they really were a bunch of trash. Now that they had self-detonated, their drawbacks were immediately revealed. Their numbers were rapidly decreasing. Their advantage in numbers was slowly becoming a disadvantage. If things continued like this, forget about crushing them, they would even be able to wipe out all of them. Empyrean God Skysurge, you're going to lose for sure. Empyrean God Yudong continued to exchange blows with Empyrean God Skysurge, but they were still evenly matched. Even though Empyrean God Yudong was more powerful than Empyrean God Skysurge, he was still unable to take down Empyrean God Skysurge with ease. Empyrean God Skysurge was a member of the evil spirit tribe, and he had absorbed the bloodlines of countless powerful beings. In particular, he was an elder of the Heaven Cultivation God realm, which allowed him to easily devour those cultivators. I'm going to lose? Empyrean God Skysurge chuckled coldly. It's not certain who's going to lose yet. Chapter 1590. Boom. After clashing with Heavenly God Yudong, Heavenly God Towering Cloud hurriedly retreated. He looked at the cultivators before him with a displeased expression. What a bunch of useless fools. What a waste of time and resources to nurture all of you. Even after joining forces, they still can't defeat a divine realm. What a bunch of trash. This is the only thing I can do now. Heavenly God Towering Cloud pulled out a black crystal before crushing it viciously. An inky black energy wafted out from the shattered crystal before being sucked into his nostrils. Moments later, Heavenly God Towering Cloud's body began to expand to an enormous size. The 4 wings on his back became 6, and 12 arms also sprouted from his back, all of which were wielding different Heavenly Venerate Spirit Treasures, or Heavenly God Spirit Treasures. His aura surged explosively, and he actually forcibly raised it to the aura of an upper-level Heavenly God, crushing the group of people. Such an explosion of evolution caused many people to hold their breaths, as they felt an incomparable pressure. This was especially so for his burly body, which was covered with black crystals. His perfect physique gave off an extremely valiant feeling. Yi Tianyun's expression instantly darkened as he looked over. Bloodline Awakening Eruption greatly enhances one's own power, granting one invincible power. Only beings with extremely dense bloodlines would be able to unleash this divine technique. Heavenly God Towering Cloud had used the Awakening Divine Stone to forcibly activate the awakening effect of his bloodline power, but he wouldn't be able to last very long. So this was a bloodline awakening eruption. No wonder it was so terrifying. The increase in power wasn't just a little bit. It was a jump of several levels in a row. How was this still the same level as before? Even though he wouldn't be able to last very long, he would still be able to last for a while. This peerlessly powerful aura was more than enough to crush all of them. This was an extremely powerful higher heavenly god, and Heavenly God Yudong was also a higher heavenly god. Who knew what would happen in a battle like this? Trash like you are all ants in the face of our perfect bloodlines. Heavenly God Towering Cloud roared with laughter as he swung the Heavenly Venerate Spirit Treasure in his hand, clashing with Heavenly God Yudong. Boom. Heavenly God Yudong was knocked flying. Even his frontal attack was no match for Heavenly God Towering Cloud's. After sending Empyrean Lord Yudong flying, Empyrean God Tower Cloud immediately charged towards Yi Tianyun. He was going to attack Yi Tianyun no matter what. He had been suppressing his anger for a very long time. He had wanted to charge over and kill him, but Empyrean God Yudong had blocked his path. Originally he didn't want to erupt, but now he was forced to. After erupting, he would suffer losses. If it wasn't harmful to his body, he would have exploded a long time ago and wouldn't have waited until now. Unless it was absolutely necessary, no one wanted to overdraft their own life to attack. Brat, hand over your life. Empyrean God Tower Cloud let out a thunderous roar as he charged forward in a frenzy. All of the cultivators in his path dodged and evaded him. Against an upper-level heavenly god, he really did not have the courage to resist. Even if he did, he would become cannon fodder. However, there were some who were unable to dodge quickly and immediately turned into a bloody mist. Regardless of whether they were allies or enemies, Empyrean God Tower Cloud completely ignored them as he swept his way forward. Run! The Great Devis and the others immediately sent mental messages to Yi Tianyun, telling him to hurry up and flee. Without question, Empyrean God Tower Cloud was charging straight for Yi Tianyun. If he didn't flee in time, Yi Tianyun would definitely be blasted to smithereens. Yi Tianyun was capable of defeating lesser Empyrean gods, and he could even exchange a few blows with intermediate Empyrean gods. However, there was no way he would be able to withstand a monstrously powerful Empyrean god like Tower Cloud. Thus, They all urged Etianyan to flee before it was too late. Even Etianyan felt the pressure on him increase, to say nothing of them. In the face of Empyrean God Tower Cloud's ferocious attacks, he would definitely be unable to resist at all, and would be insta-killed. Let's go. Etianyan didn't hesitate at all. He immediately turned and fled. It wasn't that he was a coward, rather it was that this was the wisest choice. In addition, this was a way to draw him away from the battlefield. If he was allowed to do as he pleased, he would make a huge mess of things. You want to run? Empyrean God Tower Cloud was naturally not going to let Etianyan off the hook. His speed immediately increased by several dozen times as he charged toward Etianyan. He caught up to Etianyan in the blink of an eye. Even Etianyan was unable to see his terrifying speed. Is this the power of a higher heavenly god? Or could it be that the evil spirit tribe possesses such terrifying power after awakening their bloodlines? Etianyan's heart jolted. He felt like this power was on a whole new level compared to that of Empyrean God Yudong. They were both at the early heavenly god stage, so why was there such a massive disparity between them? In the next instant, Empyrean God Tower Cloud extended a hand toward him. His massive hand was like the inky black sky as it came crashing down, cutting off all avenues of escape. Get in here. Empyrean God Tower Cloud's hand was extremely powerful, making it impossible for Etianyan to teleport away. It was as if he were surrounded by a series of thick walls that he was unable to pass through. All of a sudden, all of his abilities had been rendered useless. In the face of this peerlessly powerful attack, he was completely powerless. Looks like I'm dead for sure. Etianyan really felt like there was no way he could resist this attack unless his cultivation base improved to a higher level. Otherwise, he wouldn't even be able to defend himself. He wanted to level up now, but he couldn't even do that. He was still a long way off in terms of experience. In particular, the amount of experience required to break through to the upper heavenly venerate was astronomical. Even if he killed heavenly gods, he would have to kill several dozen of them before he could progress to the upper heavenly venerate. In this dire situation, a massive hand suddenly reached out from within the cultivation god realm before grabbing onto Empyrean God Tower Cloud's hand and crushing it. Bam! Empyrean God Tower Cloud's massive black hand was crushed, just like that. Oomph! Empyrean God Tower Cloud let loose a muffled groan as he flew through the air. Black blood gushed from his mouth, indicating that he had sustained severe injuries. How dare a mere insect like you run amok in my territory? A projection appeared from within the cultivation god realm. This massive projection was like a god emperor that had descended upon this entire area. The cultivation heaven realm lord, and the others all looked on with reverence in their eyes. We pay our respects, Patriarch. This projection was none other than the Patriarch of the cultivation god realm. He possessed peerless power, and had awakened from his slumber. Upper heavenly god final stage. Etianyan drew a sharp intake of breath. He didn't think that there would be such a powerful being within the cultivation god realm. Why had he only appeared now? In his eyes, there was only one possibility, and that was that he didn't have long to live, or that he was just a projection. Chapter 1591. After the ancestor appeared, he severely wounded Empyrean God Torrential Cloud in just a few blows. The seemingly invincible Empyrean God Torrential Cloud was sent flying, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The wings on his back quickly retracted. At the same time, the 12 arms quickly returned to their original state. His powerful physique had become shriveled up, his blood energy depleted, scattering extremely badly. This was the consequence of forcibly awakening a bloodline. Once interrupted, one's blood energy would be depleted, and one's body would become shriveled up like an old man. To this power, Empyrean God Torrential Cloud's eyes were filled with terror. The Empyrean God realm has a patriarch like this? It was clear that Empyrean God Torrential Cloud didn't know about such a powerful being. He had been in the Empyrean God realm for so long, but he didn't even know about this patriarch. He had lived like a dog. Die. The patriarch reached out toward Empyrean God Torrential Cloud again, scaring him out of his wits. He took out a special black crystal, similar to the one he had taken before, but different. After crushing it, the void suddenly shattered, and a giant hand reached out and pulled him into the void. The void quickly filled back up, and everything was the same as before. The Patriarch's attack naturally missed. It struck the void, and layers of terrifying energy spread out, giving the Holy Peak region lord and the others a fright. Run! Run! The Holy Peak region lord and the others immediately turned tail and ran. Even Empyrean god Torrential Cloud, who was controlling them, had fled. A bunch of disrespectful fools. Stay where you are. The Patriarch waved his hand and continued to strike down, killing an Empyrean god with extreme ease. Lesser Empyrean gods and intermediate Empyrean gods were all killed with ease. When they saw the scene before them, all of them were extremely excited. Things were different with the help of a Patriarch. He killed the invaders and even saved them. Otherwise, they would have been crushed by Empyrean god Torrential Cloud. Even if they survived, they probably wouldn't have much left. Etienne's heart was dripping blood when he saw this. His voodoo wood divine set couldn't support Patriarch Heaven cultivation, so he wouldn't gain any experience points when Patriarch Heaven cultivation killed these heavenly gods. Damn it! That Patriarch Heaven cultivator is just an illusion. I can't heal him at all. Etienne couldn't even help Patriarch Heaven cultivator if he wanted to. How was he supposed to help without a physical body? However, he didn't just stand there and watch. With a loud roar, he charged towards the other heavenly deities. If he could kill one, it would be one. He really wanted to break through to the upper sky sovereign realm. Every time he fought against those high-level heavenly gods, he felt a sense of helplessness. Therefore, breaking through his cultivation was imperative. Little junior brother seems to be angered. Just now, little junior brother was almost killed. That's right. He's probably very angry now and wants revenge. Poor little junior brother. Look at his expression. It's like he's missing some treasure. I can understand his feelings. He was forced into a dead end, yet he still kept chasing after him. What a tragedy. They shook their heads and felt sorry for Etienne. However, they were glad that he was fine. Otherwise, they would have lost such a powerful little junior brother. The surrounding cultivators all felt the same way. Patriarch Heaven cultivation could have easily taken care of them, but he had to do it himself. It seemed that he hated these invaders very much. Little did they know that Etienne was distressed by the experience points he had lost. How could he be happy about losing so much experience points? That kind of feeling was absolutely incomparable grief. Ah, it's all mine, it's all mine. Etienne brandished the 5-dragon divine spear and killed heavenly venerables and heavenly gods one after another. However, he was still a far cry from Patriarch Heaven cultivation. Patriarch Heaven cultivation controlled the entire area with each palm strike. No one could escape. In just a short while, all the invaders were dead. Not a single one was left. This kind of power was really too powerful. However, they were puzzled. Why didn't they appear when they first invaded? If they had appeared, their losses wouldn't have been so great. Although they had Etienne's support and healing, they had still suffered heavy losses. Many heavenly venerables and heavenly gods had died. If Patriarch Heaven cultivation had appeared at the beginning, none of the invaders would have been able to return. However, they didn't ask. Who knew what Patriarch Heaven cultivation was thinking? Perhaps he wouldn't come out until the most critical moment. Sigh, you're on your own. Patriarch Heaven cultivation sighed deeply and disappeared. He didn't show up in person, nor did he stay any longer. Heavenly God Yudong flew over and knelt deeply. Farewell, Patriarch Heaven cultivation. Farewell, Patriarch Heaven cultivation. The other disciples also knelt down to express their highest respect. However, many of them had never seen Patriarch Heaven cultivation before and didn't know of his existence. Even Heavenly God Torrent Cloud didn't know, let alone the other heavenly venerables and elders. Heavenly God Torrent Cloud had been here for who knew how many years. He was at least at the 1,000-year level, and some were even at the 10,000-year level. After sending off Patriarch Heaven cultivation, Heavenly God Yudong didn't say much. He just told them to pack up and return to the Heaven cultivation God realm to heal their injuries. When they all returned to the Great Hall, only the elders were left. One of them couldn't help but ask, Patriarch Yudong, why didn't Patriarch Heaven Cultivation appear at the beginning? Heavenly God Yudong shook his head and sighed deeply. Actually, I was the one who summoned Patriarch Heaven Cultivation. Patriarch Heaven Cultivation has fused with the Heaven Cultivation God realm. Every time he appears, he will fall into a deep slumber for 10,000 years. If it weren't for the fact that I had no other choice, I wouldn't have wasted this opportunity. It will definitely save my life at the most critical moment. It was a little dangerous this time, but it's not the most critical moment yet. After all, with little friend Heavenly Cloud's help, even if there are some sacrifices, it's still possible to stabilize the situation. Heavenly God Yudong explained a little, and they immediately understood what he meant. So there was such a thing. Once he appeared, he would sleep for 10,000 years. Everyone had seen Patriarch Heaven Cultivation's power just now. He was so powerful that he wouldn't even be afraid of several upper heavenly gods. But now he had wasted it on an upper heavenly god and some mid-level heavenly gods. How could they not feel pity? It was an absolutely life-saving trump card at the most critical moment, but now that he had used it, it was a mixed blessing. Chapter 1592. After everyone heard the news, they looked at each other and saw the worry in each other's eyes. Even Heavenly God Torrential Cloud had been rescued just then, so there was undoubtedly an even more powerful force behind the scenes. If they were to make a comeback, they would most likely be unable to stop them. When Zhang Xian first saw the Heaven Ascension sect's old ancestor, he had thought that he was an existence hidden in the depths of the world. Now that he had woken up from his seclusion, he decided to save the Heaven Ascension sect's god realm. However, the truth was that the Heaven Cultivator Patriarch was already dead. It was just that his body and soul had merged with the Heaven Cultivator God domain, so that he could come out at the critical moment to save them. Now that the opportunity was gone, he wouldn't be able to save the situation next time. No wonder Empyrean God Yulong didn't summon it immediately. He didn't want to use it unless he had to. He had no choice but to use it at this critical moment. If they didn't use it now, they would be annihilated. At that time it would be useless to keep them alive. However, a single Empyrean God Heaven Surge had forced them to summon Patriarch Heaven Repairman. What would happen next? As a result, their hearts grew heavy. First, they had betrayed a large group of people, and now they had to use Ancestor Heaven Cultivation. It could be said that every step from now on would be difficult. Thinking back to what Patriarch Heaven Cultivation had said before, he had told them to take care of themselves. He really did take care of themselves. Is there no way to help Patriarch Sky Cultivator recover quickly, Patriarch Yudong? Even if I don't recover immediately, I can at least recover some of my strength. Realm Lord Heaven Cultivation had no choice but to take a step back and see if there was a way to help Patriarch Heaven Cultivation recover. It would be good if he could shorten it a little. Otherwise, if he waited for it to recover bit by bit, it would be too slow. What do you think of that surge of power just now? Empyrean God Yudong asked. Very powerful, almost an invincible existence. He has probably reached the late upper heavenly god level, right? Region Lord Xiutian said. Yes, it's indeed very powerful. It's precisely because it's very powerful that you think there's anything that can easily recover from it. Or should I say, someone who can recover substantially? Empyrean God Yudong asked. This. Area Lord Xiutian and the others looked at each other in dismay. After thinking about it carefully, they realized that this was indeed the case. The items needed to recover such great power were extremely complicated, and of a very high level. Even if they threw everything they had into the Heaven Cultivating God realm, they wouldn't be able to recover much. The stronger one's cultivation was, the slower the rate of recovery would be. The main thing was that the item's grade was too low, so the effects wouldn't be too great. They all had a deep understanding of this point. Pills that were effective for those with low cultivation bases would only have the same effect as an itch to them. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been stuck at this level and couldn't even take a single step forward. We can only rely on ourselves now. Patriarch Heaven Cultivation is about to enter a deep slumber. But it seems that they won't be able to attack us anytime soon. Heavenly Deity Yudong said solemnly. But we can't let our guard down. We must remain vigilant. If a fight breaks out, we can only defend until the end. Everyone nodded. They already had this thought, and it was impossible for them to retreat. Moreover, it was useless to retreat. With the evil spirit race's personality, they would definitely kill them all, and not let a single one of them go. Senior, thank you for summoning Patriarch Heaven Cultivation to save this junior. If it weren't for Senior, this junior would have lost his head long ago, said Yi Tianyan gratefully. If he didn't summon it immediately, he would have been killed. Of course he wouldn't die. He was afraid of being trapped. That was the most difficult part. After being killed, he could revive very quickly. If he was trapped, he wouldn't be able to escape. After all, if he was trapped, he wouldn't be able to earn experience. He wouldn't be able to escape even if he wanted to. Although he was constantly gaining experience, it was still too little. It was like trying to put out a cart of firewood with a cup of water. Right now he was indeed constantly gaining experience. It was from the divine realm of the three realms. Whenever they made a breakthrough or killed demonic beasts, he would be able to gain experience. But these experience points were too low. The amount of experience he needed now was too high. But if he was really trapped, he could only endure it slowly. When he reached a certain point, he would be able to break through and rush out. No matter what, he had to thank Patriarch Heaven Cultivation for saving his life. Otherwise, Patriarch Taoyuan would have devoured him. At that time, it would not be an easy thing to resurrect. Don't worry about that. You've helped us more. Heavenly Deity Yudong sighed. It's a pity. If I could stop him, it wouldn't be so urgent. Unfortunately, I'm seriously injured and can't recover. Patriarch Yudong, you're injured? They looked at Heavenly Deity Yudong in shock. Heavenly Deity Yudong hadn't been attacked before. How could he be injured? Heavenly Deity Yudong gently pulled open his clothes. There were dense black patterns on them. They looked quite terrifying. It was as if something had implanted them on the surface of his body. Evil energy rushed toward him. Their eyes widened. Heavenly Deity Yudong had this kind of situation? Yi Tianyan focused his eyes. He looked at Heavenly Deity Yudong's body, and immediately saw some clues. Wretch God's Pearl. Ultra Heavenly God Spirit Treasure. Seals a portion of the Wretch God's power. The wielder will be slowly devoured. When used, it can summon a powerful Wretch God to resist everything. What's going on? When they saw this scene, they were completely stunned. They didn't expect Heavenly Deity Yudong's body to look like this. This is the treasure they want. It has been passed down from generation to generation. They used their bodies to seal this evil spirit's pearl. Heavenly Deity Yudong said in a low voice, "This has always been a secret. It can only be passed down to the next generation. So it's normal that you don't know. Now that it's exposed, you might as well say it. Otherwise, you won't know what you're guarding." A long time ago, our heavenly deity realm was one of the main forces resisting the main culprits of the battle of God Emperors. After the strongest evil spirits were sealed, we were divided into several regions. Among them, the evil spirit's pearl in my body is sealing the limbs of the evil spirits. Heavenly Deity Yudong explained, "I can use the power inside, but my body can't. If I continue to use it, it will continue to corrode. In the end, I could only use the power of Heavenly Deity Realm Patriarch. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to deal with them." The simple explanation stunned them all. They didn't expect such a thing to happen. Although Yi Tianyan already knew a little, he couldn't help but be shocked when he heard it. Evil spirits? Heavenly Deity Realm Lord was confused. Yes, there are no records of it now. In fact, the real culprit is the evil spirits, the guy who calls himself evil spirits. But I have to say, he is the expert closest to the God Emperor realm. He plundered a lot of people's bloodlines to break through to the God Emperor realm. Chapter 1593. Empyrean God Yudong gave a simple explanation, and all of them were stunned after hearing it. The general gist of it was that after the evil spirits were sealed, they were sealed in several pearls, each of which contained the bodies of the evil spirits. Once they were gathered, the evil spirits would be resurrected. Who would have thought that they would still be alive even after being cut into so many pieces? This was enough to show just how terrifying the evil spirits were. Back then, in the Battle of Emperor Gods, everything had ended quickly after the evil god had been sealed. Otherwise, the battle would definitely have continued until the evil god had broken through to become an emperor god. No wonder Empyrean god Torrential Cloud has been lurking here for so long. He's searching for the evil spirit's pearl, right? Realm Lord Xiaotian was puzzled. That's right. They're heading straight for the evil spirit's pearl. However, only I know about this. I don't know where Empyrean god Torrential Cloud is. He would never have thought that the heretic god's orb would fuse with the inheritor, right? There's no way to sense it in its normal state. However, the power of the evil spirits is simply too powerful. According to the inheritors, you will be the next inheritor. Empyrean god Yudong looked at Realm Lord Xiaotian. In other words, you will be the next inheritor to use your body to seal the evil spirit's pearl. This process will be painful, but this is the only way to prevent the destruction of the god realm. Realm Lord Xiaotian and the others' hearts trembled. They didn't think that they would be given such an arduous task. The Heaven Cultivation God realm was a very normal god realm, but they were suddenly told that they had to shoulder the responsibility of being the saviors of the world. However, it really isn't worth it to put our Heaven Cultivation God realm in danger. A wry smile appeared on the faces of Realm Lord Xiaotian and the others. They weren't the most powerful faction, but it wasn't worth it to seal this thing. It is indeed not worth it, but we can use the evil spirit's pearl to unleash even more power. Your body is still very strong and young, so you can use it for a long time. When you truly unleash your full power, you will be able to sweep through all intermediate heavenly gods. When you break through to the upper heavenly god stage, you will also be able to stand at an extremely high level among the upper heavenly gods. Moreover, our heavenly god domain is able to obtain the protection of some experts of the older generation. Of course, they didn't seem to have appeared earlier. Perhaps they would only appear at the most critical moment. It's also possible that it won't appear, so I don't dare to take the risk. Towards the end, heavenly deity Yudong felt a little awkward. Who could be certain of the oath he made back then? If the older generation were all in seclusion or had long since ceased to exist, and no one came to rescue them, they would really be waiting for death. Everyone looked at the evil spirit's pearl on heavenly god Yudong's chest. It had already sunk deep into his body. Although he was not injured, his energy had been continuously absorbed, and he was still lacking in strength. Now, I'm telling you about this matter. It's already a critical moment. I have to confess and let you know what responsibility is. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to figure out why we were captured one day, Empyrean god Yudong said. Heavenly Cultivation Realm Lord. And the others finally understood why Empyrean god Sky Tower was fighting so desperately. It was all for this evil spirit's pearl. I think those seniors will most likely come to rescue us. If they don't, Empyrean god Sky Tower will definitely bring more of his comrades to attack us. However, he won't dare to do anything rash. A small scuffle might not attract attention, but if he goes overboard he will most likely attract attention, Tianyan interjected. Everyone nodded. They had all thought of this. If it weren't for this, the evil spirit tribe would most likely have already charged out. That should be the case. Empyrean god Yudong sighed. However, we lost the evil spirit's pearl. Without this responsibility, the heavenly god domain probably wouldn't have lasted for so long. Most forces will quickly decline, but our heavenly god domain is still very strong. It's all thanks to the protection of our ancestors and the protection of the evil spirit's pearl that we are able to survive. There were so many forces in the heavenly god domain, and it was very common for them to disappear and reappear. The heavenly god domain being so strong really did have something to do with the protection of the evil spirit's pearl. Senior, do the 4th grade heavenly god domains have a similar responsibility? Tianyan asked. I'm not sure about that. Everything is extremely secretive. The most I know is that the evil spirits are divided into several pearls, but I really don't know who takes them and who controls them, Empyrean god Yudong explained. This is most likely for the sake of concealment. This is a very dangerous matter, and it definitely can't be disclosed. Everyone present was a core member of the heavenly god domain, so they were all trustworthy. Only Yi Tianyan and the others were not disciples of the heavenly god domain, but they had all helped the heavenly god domain, especially Yi Tianyan, who had helped them a lot. Under such circumstances, Empyrean god Yudong had already regarded him as one of his own, so he naturally wouldn't avoid suspicion. Everyone nodded. The evil spirit's pearl was such a precious treasure, and it was used to seal the evil spirits. If the evil spirit race knew about it, they would definitely rush over to snatch it. Therefore, it was very correct not to disclose it. It had to be completely hidden. As for burying it in the ground, it was better to carry it with him. That was the safest. At the same time, he could use his own strength to suppress it. It was really more effective than any formation. But the price was very obvious. Empyrean god Yudong, who was an upper heavenly god, was affected to this extent. It was enough to show how terrifying the evil spirits were. I can still hold on for a while, but I want to ask you now, are you willing to accept this heavy responsibility? Empyrean god Yudong looked at him with a serious expression. This was a very serious matter. I am willing to accept this heavy responsibility. Heavenly God Domain Lord did not hesitate and immediately agreed. Perhaps others did not know what they had sacrificed, but at least one thing was clear, and that was to continue to seal the evil spirits, so that there would not be another battle between God Emperors. Only in this way could they protect their own forces. The others did not know, but it was enough to protect their own forces. The great Devis looked at his father, and did not say anything. Perhaps the next inheritor would be him. The premise was that he could really wait until then. Yi Tianyan immediately felt deep respect for their actions. It seemed that the heavenly god domain also had a bright side. They sought geniuses and constantly nurtured geniuses. They wanted to greatly strengthen the heavenly god domain in a short period of time, so that they could protect the evil spirit's pearl. However, a super expert was not so easy to nurture. Even a genius would not be able to do so. In this state, it was really dangerous to still protect such a thing. Chapter 1594. Yi Tianyan was very impressed by Old Master Chen's awareness. However, if it was him, he would do the same. It was not that he was a savior, but that the evil spirits had brought about a calamity when they had descended. No matter what faction it was, they would be affected. It did not matter if the other factions were affected, but in the end, their own factions would definitely be affected. Moreover, most of the factions had chosen to resist the evil spirit race, so as long as the other factions were not finished, the evil spirit race would not be particularly rampant. Just as he was thinking about something, heavenly deity Yudang looked at them and said, "Little friend, your performance this time is excellent. I will put down my pride and ask little friend to help the Heaven Cultivation God Realm. Perhaps the Heaven Cultivation God Realm has let you down, but please do not mind. From today onwards, the Heaven Cultivation God Realm will definitely treat you like an elder. We will not treat you badly either. We will give you all kinds of resources, and even provide you with the best cultivation place." Heavenly deity Yudang had really put down his pride and come to rope in Yi Tianyan. Everyone had seen Yi Tianyan's performance. Not only could he kill heavenly gods, but he could also heal everyone. He also had the foundation of a 10 refinement Earth Lord. Just these points alone were enough for him to be an elder. However, if Yi Tianyan did not join, he would not be able to become an elder, right? But even if he joined, it would not be so easy to become an elder. He had helped a lot, but it would be too much to become an elder just like that. Many people did not understand what kind of personality Yi Tianyan had and what the real situation was. Becoming an elder just like that was undoubtedly too child's play. The current situation would be better. Most of the heavenly venerables and heavenly gods had received his help, which would undoubtedly help him become an elder. However, he had no interest in the position of an elder. The reason he could come to help the Heaven Cultivation God Realm was largely because the great Devis was here. Yi Tianyan was not in a hurry to answer. Instead, he turned to look at the great Devis, wanting to see what his master had to say. If the great Devis said that he would become an elder, then he would become an elder here. Heavenly Cloud has its own faction, and it has more to manage. There's no need for me to join. The great Devis shook his head and said, "But you don't need to say anything, Patriarch Yudong. He'll definitely come to help. Just because I'm here as his master, he will definitely come over to help." The great Devis shook his head and smiled bitterly. As the master? How could he not know the reason? Wasn't it because of him that Yi Tianyin and the others were able to arrive in time? Could it be that they saw injustice and pulled out their swords to help? Thank you for your kindness, Senior. Junior's words are indeed reasonable. You don't even need to say anything, this Junior will come over to help. Moreover, after learning about the evil spirit's orb, I knew I couldn't escape. Yi Tianyin smiled faintly and said, "If I don't act once the evil spirit's orb gathers, all the forces will be finished. Including my faction, there's no way I can refuse." Yi Tianyin was a sensible person, and they also knew what it meant. Once the evil spirits came again, everything would fall into darkness. Who could escape then? If they were not willing to come over to help, when the forces were finished, their own forces would definitely be affected. As for surrendering, that was not a problem. They would become their slaves for life. This was undoubtedly a choice that no one wanted to see. Sai little friend is still sensible. However, many people are still interested in the power of the evil spirits. Even if it's not the evil spirit tribe, many people will want to have the evil spirit's orb for the power within it. Heavenly God Yudong shook his head, somewhat blinded by greed. They coveted a moment of invincibility, and wanted to have the evil spirit's orb. They didn't care about the consequences of gathering the evil spirit's orb. They only thought about how many forces they could rule when they had the evil spirit's orb. What they didn't know was that although the evil spirit's orb was very powerful, it was not invincible. When surrounded by the powerful evil spirit tribe, it was still easy to be killed. Or like Heavenly God Yudong, his body was slowly eroded, but in the end, it was all for naught. However, they just coveted a moment of invincibility, nothing else mattered. There were quite a few of such people, and in fact a lot of them. Therefore, it was a very correct choice not to publicize it. There was no need to make things difficult for themselves. Then let's not talk about the rest. We will still give you the resources that should be given. Your authority will be set at the level of an elder. Heavenly God Yudong still gave Yi Tianyin the authority of an elder. Although he wouldn't join, he would still help in the future. If he didn't give some benefits, he would really feel bad. Especially since he had helped so much this time. Even if he didn't want to give any rewards, he had to. Then I won't stand on ceremony. Of course, Yi Tianyin wouldn't stand on ceremony. He was going to help in the future, and he was risking his life to help. If he didn't even give some benefits, it would really be disappointing. Thus they began to discuss some things, such as the defense plan. No one knew when Heavenly God torrential clouds would attack again, so they had to be prepared for anything. Just as they were discussing a bunch of things, Yi Tianyin interjected, "Seniors, have you never considered forming an alliance?" It was very difficult for just one power to do anything. They had to gather together in order to have a chance of resisting the evil spirits. We've considered it, but we're not confident that these so-called alliances won't stab us in the back. Wry smiles appeared on their faces. They couldn't even trust their own people, let alone allies. Of course, the alliances I'm talking about are those that possess the evil spirit's pearl. Is there no news at all? If they wanted to form a true alliance, they definitely wouldn't be able to trust any random power. However, if they were all guardians of the evil spirit's pearl, then things would be different. They all had heavy responsibilities on their shoulders, so it would be perfect if they were united. It's impossible to say that there is no news at all, but I'm not sure if I'm 100% sure. Heavenly God Yudong thought for a moment before saying, "I heard that among the 4th grade god realms, the Yuelong god realm, the most powerful one, might be the guardian of the evil spirit's pearl, and the Fecta god realm might also be the guardian of the evil spirit's pearl." The Yuelong god realm and the Fecta god realm? Yi Tianyin thought of the Fecta god realm. Heavenly God Torrential Clouds suspected that he was a disciple of the Fecta god realm, but this was too mysterious, so he decided not to talk about it. Then he thought for a moment before saying, "The Fecta god realm is too mysterious, and it's difficult to contact them. Are you not going to contact the Yuelong god realm?" This. They looked at Yi Tianyan with strange expressions. Heavenly Sovereign Sword C nudged Yi Tianyan with his elbow and said with a smile, "Little junior brother, you don't even know what the Yuelong God realm is like." "I really don't know about this." Yi Tianyan shook his head. "The Yuelong God realm is full of female cultivators, and it is extremely repulsive to males. Let alone an alliance, any male that enters will be chased out, and in serious cases they will be killed. How do you think we're going to contact them?" Heavenly Sovereign Sword C said with a smile. This. Chapter 1595. Who would have thought that this Yuelong God domain was made up of only female cultivators? This shocked Yi Tianyan greatly. He was shocked that there was such a special God domain in the God domain. If it was a small force, it wouldn't be strange if they were all female cultivators. But now, the entire God domain was made up of female cultivators. This was especially shocking. It was simply a special existence among the many God domains. There's such a special God domain, and its overall strength is ranked first? Yi Tianyan was shocked. That's right, this is indeed shocking. Yuelong God domain only recruits female cultivators. As long as they are female cultivators, they will be recruited, regardless of their cultivation, talent, or age. The great Devis shook his head and said, "The overall strength ranked first was actually female cultivators. All along, in most regions, men were superior to women. But now they were being ruthlessly crushed. Some forces felt really upset. Perhaps this is because Yuelong God domain constantly recruits female cultivators. That's why it has such a standard. By constantly recruiting female cultivators, the chances of finding geniuses are higher. After all, most forces don't put female cultivators in an important position. On this point, it's the same as those disciples with average or average talent. When it accumulates to a certain extent, it will become very terrifying." Yi Tianyan's words exposed the truth, and it was a very cruel truth. Women held up half the sky. The number of female cultivators was also incomparably shocking. But most of them didn't get the status or respect they deserved. Unless they performed extremely well from the start, or if they came from an illustrious family, it would be easy for them to get respect. Thus, most of the female cultivators in this region chose to join Yuelong God domain. This resulted in Yuelong God domain having many talented female cultivators. This caused the other God domains to be incomparably embarrassed. By the time they reacted, it was already too late. Yuelong God domain had already surpassed most God domains, becoming an outstanding existence among the fourth-grade God domains. These words indeed made them feel incomparably embarrassed. Especially the second half of Yi Tianyan's words. It really pierced the hearts of the elders who supported genius. However, they had no way of rebutting him now. Yuelong's God domain was an example. He recruited all kinds of disciples. Some of them were female cultivators that weren't valued at all. But in the end, all of them turned over a new leaf and became the strongest of their generation. It turned out that female cultivators could also hold up half of the sky, and they were the very powerful ones. That's true. The great Devis, who was at the side, laughed. This disciple of his was truly ruthless. Even at a time like this, he did not forget to improve himself. That's more or less what it means. The other party is all female cultivators, and they are extremely repellent towards cultivation. Even if we go over to contact them, they might not even respond. After all, there are quite a few female cultivators who left through us. Their situation is rather awkward. This was the awkward part. Those who couldn't be put in an important position would be put in an important position in the past and soar to the sky. Any faction would have slapped their thighs in regret over such a matter. However, this was the status of female cultivators. The concept of men being superior to women was deeply ingrained and could not be changed in a short period of time. Even so, no matter what, they would still consider old friendships, right? Yi Tianyan asked doubtfully. Old friendships, huh? Domain Lord Xiaotian and the others laughed awkwardly. Although they did not explain, Yi Tianyan had a rough idea of what was going on. Without a doubt, there was no such thing as old friendships. They were directly treated coldly. Why would they care about them? Under such circumstances, wouldn't they be chased out of Yuelong's god domain? Even so, they should know some information. For example, you are the protectors, and they will contact you, right? How to put it? As the protectors, they should be united. It would be great if that was the case. As the number one faction in the god domain, they should not be in any danger. Why would they contact us? Domain Lord Xiaotian shook his head. We have thought about this long ago, but we want to, but they don't. We tried to contact them once or twice, but who knew that we would be chased out and refused to see them? So resistant. Tianyan was shocked. No matter what, there shouldn't be a problem with contacting them, right? They are so resistant. Unless someone introduces them, there is no way to contact them. Domain Lord Xiaotian and the others shook their heads and laughed bitterly. Someone introduces them? Then why don't you find someone to introduce you? Tianyan looked at them and said, that is true. But if the introducer's status is too low, there is no meaning. If their status is too high, they won't care about us. Domain Lord Xiaotian shook his head. Oh right, there is a female cultivator with a good status. Even though she is no longer in Yuelong's god domain, her reputation is good. But she has disappeared recently. I don't know where she went. The great Devas said. Which female cultivator? Tianyan asked curiously. Supreme Fengqiu. The great Devas said in a low voice. Supreme Fengqiu has a very high status in Yuelong's god domain. She is equivalent to an elder. But she suddenly left. But recently it was revealed that she is a witch, that her parents are the main culprits of the God-Emperor battle. It is simply a joke. However, these words will deceive many cultivators, and they will believe it to be true. If we find Supreme Fengqiu, we can introduce her. But whether or not they will allow us to form an alliance is another matter. Tianyan had a strange expression. He did not expect Supreme Fengqiu to have such a shocking status. He thought that she was a lone traveler from the start. So she was not a lone traveler from the start. She had a very high status in Yuelong's god domain. Little junior brother, aren't you quite familiar with Supreme Fengqiu? Why don't you ask her? Swordsea Heavenly Venerable said from the side. Everyone looked at him. They did not expect that Tianyan and Supreme Fengqiu would be quite familiar. This is indeed very familiar. Tianyan laughed. Not only were they familiar, they were from their own forces. Now that they had joined the god domain of the three realms, if Supreme Fengqiu brought them over, what would they do if the other side pulled them back? This time their eyes lit up. If they could form an alliance, they would have a backer. If a war broke out, Yuelong's god domain would immediately send reinforcements. Ding, received special quest, forming an alliance with Yuelong's god domain. After completion, received reward of main quest difficulty reduced by half. At the same time, received 10,000 crazy points, 10,000 proficiency points, and increase friendship between Yuelong's god domain and Heaven Cultivation god domain. Chapter 1596. This special mission is about forming an alliance with my faction? As for Xiaotian god domain, that's just along the way? If one looked closely, they would realize that it was different. It was not to form an alliance for Xiaotian god domain, but to use the three realms god domain as a representative to form an alliance with Yuelong god domain. If they formed an alliance with Yuelong god domain, then Xiaotian god domain was basically just along the way. Then Tianyan looked at them and smiled. Alright, I'll go talk to Fengqiu Zun. You guys can send a representative over. The representative is the great clan elder. Xiaotian domain lord did not even think, and clapped his hands to let the great Devas go over. The great Devas was not only the great clan elder, he was also his son. What was there not to trust? There would be no problem letting the great Devas go over to handle it. Moreover, with his own disciple, there was no need to talk about it. It would undoubtedly be more convenient to discuss matters. Alright, I'll go find Fengqiu Zun now. Tianyan did not say it out loud. Fengqiu Zun was staying in his three realms god domain. He would be scared to death if he said it. Fengqiu Zun, who was so hard to deal with, was actually dealt with by him. Following that, Tianyan turned and left. He was originally a little hesitant. wondering if he should go find Feng Qiuzun. Now that he thought about it, it was for the sake of his Three Realms God domain. It was better to go contact Yuelong God domain. Thinking about it, the goal was the same a long time ago. It meant that both had similar thoughts. This way, communication would be easier. Very quickly, he returned to the Three Realms God domain and found Feng Qiuzun, who was running around in the Three Realms God domain. When he found her, she was still teaching them all sorts of martial arts or giving them pointers. It had to be said that Feng Qiuzun really enjoyed it and could not stay idle for even a moment. Feng Qiuzun, have you never thought of resting? You don't need to do this. Yi Tianyan did not know whether to laugh or cry. I really can't stay idle. You've helped me so much, staying here and doing nothing. It's really embarrassing. Feng Qiuzun smiled embarrassedly. All right, but you'll be able to help me with something soon. Yi Tianyan smiled lightly. What kind of help? Feng Qiuzun's eyes lit up. It was obvious that he belonged to the type that would feel uncomfortable if he did not help. Were you in Yuelong's God domain a long time ago? Yi Tianyan asked directly. Yes, I've stayed in Yuelong God domain before. What's the matter? Venerable Feng Qiu asked curiously. She didn't hide anything. Those who knew a little about her long ago knew that she had stayed in the Yuelong God domain. Yes, I want the Three Realms deity domain to form an alliance with the Yuelong deity domain. Yi Tianyan did not talk about the Xiutian deity domain, but about the Three Realms deity domain. Alliance with Yuelong God domain? Venerable Feng Qiu was stunned when she heard this. Yes, the Three Realms deity realm is allied with Yuelong deity realm. Hence, I need you to introduce me. Otherwise, if I go over, I will definitely be kicked out. Yi Tianyan laughed. I'm afraid that won't be possible. It's a little too difficult. Even if I were to recommend him, it would be very difficult. She knew how strong the Three Realms deity realm was. To actually form an alliance with Yuelong God domain. Wasn't the difference too great? The so-called alliance, first of all, the difference between the two sides couldn't be too great, or they had the same status. Only then could it be called an alliance. If the difference was too great, then it wouldn't be an alliance, but a vassal. This was like an ordinary cultivator saying that he wanted to be friends with a powerful Empyrean. Unless he had saved the Empyrean, why would the Empyrean lower himself to befriend him? I know this. Leave the rest to me. I will make Yuelong God domain acknowledge us. Yi Tianyan smiled, full of confidence. Since that's the case, then no problem. The recommendation isn't difficult. I can't help much from it. The difficulty is too great. Even if I had some authority in Yuelong God domain in the past, I can't completely interfere. Venerable Feng Qiu shook her head. She would recommend him, but this was a small favor. Whether or not it would succeed was not up to her. All right, wait for me here. When I'm ready, I'll come find you. After Yi Tianyan gave his instructions, he directly went to the dark trial area. When he came to the dark trial area, the artifact spirit appeared again. It looked at him and asked, Are you ready? With my current cultivation, how high is the success rate? Yi Tianyan asked. Your cultivation has already broken through, but the success rate is still 50-50. Everything depends on your luck. The artifact spirit still threw out this success rate, making him feel very speechless. Previously, it was 50-50. Now that his cultivation had risen by 2 levels, the success rate was still the same. He didn't know what to say. Could it be based on my previous strength? Yi Tianyan thought about it. If the opponent was very strong, even if he broke through by 2 levels, the artifact spirit's data was not enough to increase the success rate. After thinking for a while, Yi Tianyan still decided to go for the trial. His overall strength could even fight against a middle heavenly god. It couldn't be that there was such a strong existence inside, right? I'll continue to participate in the trial. Yi Tianyan walked over and said. In his opinion, since the other party gave a 50-50 success rate, then the difficulty might be within the acceptable range. All right then, please enter. The artifact spirit waved his hand, and the passage in front opened slightly. Yi Tianyan didn't hesitate to enter, but as soon as he entered, he immediately felt an evil force coming towards him. When he took a closer look, he discovered that there was a dried corpse floating in the air. On this dried corpse, there was a pearl embedded. Evil spirit's orb. Etienne's eyes narrowed, but he didn't show any surprise. Everything was within his expectations. When he knew that there was an evil spirit's orb, he guessed that there would be an evil spirit's orb here. After thinking about it carefully, he felt that there would definitely be an evil spirit's orb here. This was an area set up by the divine spirit race. One of the reasons they spent so much was to seal the evil spirit's orb. If he obtained the evil spirit's orb, then the alliance would be assured. As protectors, no one wished for anything to happen to the other. This was the reason why he let Feng Qiuzun rest assured. With the evil spirit's orb, he could be a companion. He just didn't know if the evil spirit's orb was sealed, or if it appeared in some other form. Now he knew. It appeared in the form of a corpse. The opponent in the last stage was most likely a possessor controlled by the power of evil spirits? Could it be that this is the original master of the three realms deity realm? Chapter 1597. Vaguely, Etienne could see a head floating in the evil spirit's pearl. The appraisal eye also displayed the information in front of him. Evil spirit's pearl. The head of the evil spirits is sealed in it. It has the most terrifying power of the evil spirits. Sealing it requires a lot of power. When used at the same time, it has the terrifying power of the evil spirits, which is enough to destroy everything. The corrosive effect is far greater than the other parts of the evil spirits. As expected, the head of the evil spirits is sealed here. Otherwise, there would not be such a heaven-defying god seal here in the god realm of the three realms. When all kinds of seals are stacked together, the power of the evil spirit's pearl can be sealed. However, if the person possessed by the evil god's pearl was really the leader of the divine spirit clan, wouldn't that be a little too miserable? With such a powerful god seal, it can't even seal a head. Does it need to be sealed with its own body? However, when he looked carefully, he found that the floating corpse is indeed from the divine spirit clan, but it doesn't seem to be the leader. Elder of the divine spirit clan. The power of the evil spirits is sealed in its body. It still has its own consciousness, but it is already in a blurry state. Its cultivation is at the early stage of the medium god realm. So it's an elder of the divine spirit clan. Etienne breathed a sigh of relief. But if it's an elder of the divine spirit clan who sealed it, then what about the leader of the divine spirit clan? Maybe he will know the truth after passing this test. Then he lifted his foot and walked forward. As soon as he stepped into the formation, the floating corpse suddenly moved. It slowly raised its head and looked over. One of its eyes was white, and the other was black. This phenomenon means that the power of the evil spirits has already corroded its head. Someone finally came. The dry voice sounded like scraping against the wall. It was very ear-piercing and uncomfortable. Haha, someone finally came. Can I, the evil spirits, absorb some blood? Or do you want to seal me again? It's been too long since I've had fresh blood for me to absorb. I've been absorbing this body for so long, but there's no smell at all. The mummy suddenly laughed loudly. Its twisted face looked completely different from before. Whether it was his voice or his tone, they were on two different levels. One was dry and weak, like a lamp that had run out of oil. The other was full of energy and evil. The evil spirits have already corrupted me to this extent. Etienne sucked in a breath of cold air. It seemed that possessing the evil spirit's orb came with such a powerful side effect. The evil spirits were too strong. They were cultivators that were infinitely close to becoming god emperors. Not only were they hard to kill, even if they were dismembered, they wouldn't die. Kill me, seal the orb of evil spirits. Soon, another voice sounded, telling Etienne to kill him. Haha, come and kill me if you can. You're just a middle-level heavenly master. I don't know how you came in, but you're pretty good to come in, and give me your blood. After a while, when I have completely taken over this body, I will be able to rush out. The evil spirits laughed again, looking at Etienne with disdain. This elder of the divine spirit tribe was at least an intermediate heavenly god. Now that he had the power of the evil god, it would not be easy to kill him. Rush out. I think with your ability, you can't do it. Yi Tianyan sneered and said. If it was so easy to rush out, you would have already rushed out. He tightly held the 5-dragon divine spear in his hand, ready to fight. This was the last trial. Kill the elder of the divine spirit race, and become the guardian of the evil god's orb. He will also become like this, letting the evil spirit's orb enter his body, and then his blood essence will be extracted bit by bit. This process is very slow, unless he uses the evil spirit's orb, otherwise it will be very slow. But no matter how slow it is, his blood essence will be extracted bit by bit. No matter which guardian it is, the final outcome will be the same. Unless he moves out in advance, he can live for a while longer, but it will be very difficult to replenish his blood essence. He hasn't even fought yet, he already has to make a choice, either die or become a guardian. However, the evil spirits in front of him will not allow Yi Tianyan to become a guardian. If he becomes a guardian, he will continue to be trapped for a very long time. How can he control the divine spirit clan elder's body like now? Especially now, he wants to kill Yi Tianyan to absorb more blood essence to fill his own needs. The more blood he absorbs, the more power he can recover. But how to absorb? He only has one head, his power can't be that strong. Brat, you're quite arrogant. Even if I can't get out, at least I can still kill you. The evil spirit shouted, controlling the divine spirit clan elder's body to attack. His power quickly increased, from the original intermediate heavenly god level to the intermediate heavenly god level. Obviously, the evil spirit's own power has been poured in. Only in this way can he better control this body. Yi Tianyan's expression was indifferent as he looked at the evil god that was rushing towards him. No wonder it was said that he had a 50-50 chance of winning this round. If the divine spirit clan's elder's soul power had the upper hand, then he could easily win this round. On the other hand, if the evil spirits have the upper hand, then he will face the 50% chance of failure. Now it is the other 50% chance. The evil spirits have already controlled the body and increased their power. Combined with Yi Tianyan's previous level, this is really the success rate. However, that was then and this was now. Now that his cultivation had increased, he could even fight against a middle-level celestial god. 5 dragons roar. 5 dragons bracer. Dragon and Phoenix divine meridians open. He went all out. He was so much stronger than him, especially when facing an evil god. If he didn't use it, then he would be a fool. He is not a fool, and he will not underestimate his enemy. He has always adhered to one principle, and that is a lion will use all its strength to fight a rabbit. Boom! The violent attack blasted, accompanied by a terrifying loud sound, and both of them were sent flying. The divine spirit clan elder's withered body was sent flying even further, and finally hit the protective shield, making a bang sound and bouncing back. Poochie! The divine spirit clan elder spat out a mouthful of blood, but it was just a little bit. His body was almost drained, and there was no blood left. Yi Tianyan's situation is not bad. His body was slightly shaken, and he suffered some internal injuries, but he will be fine after a little recovery. In the first exchange, Yi Tianyan has a slight advantage. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.